Good evening, everybody, and a very warm welcome back to the action here at SimRacing International. You join us ahead of the start of the 13th season of SRI GT3 Championship action here tonight at the Glen. The 11 corners around this place up for the drivers in the opening round. We have to start the season with a 90-minute race. Before all that, though, it's a pleasure to be joining you all back in the booth once again after my personal spell away. But 7 months ago, Dara, since our season 10 finale, last time I found myself with a microphone in front of my face. So I'm sure a lot has changed since then. We've had some new champions, some new teams and drivers along the way. But what hasn't changed is your commentary team tonight. Myself, Joseph Glass, joined alongside Mr. Dara Thacker, as always. And Dara, you've been here throughout the past 2 seasons. I've mostly been out the fray. I'm pleased to be sharing the booth with you again, of course. But I'm curious what you might be expecting in the upcoming 10 weeks of racing, and more particularly tonight in the opening round.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this season. Of course, 13, unlucky for some, but I think it's going to be a really thrilling 10 rounds, as we've come to get used to over the next couple of months, running us all the way to the start of September. We've had a lot of hour-long races in the last few seasons, and even those 2 30-minute races, but 30-minute races out of the window now into 7 rounds of 1-hour races and 3 90-minute races, which include tonight. So a bit of a jump to get us started into the season, but again, a very open calendar, as you would expect to see. Lots to look forward to, and you can see it on the screen there. You know, we go to the likes of Bathurst, Road America, Hockenheim, Le Mans, and Daytona, and the Rebel Ring. It really is a stacked calendar, and I think tonight, with a 90-minute race to kick off the season, could separate out some of the drivers and teams quite early on and give us a good sense of who's going to be fighting for those championships in the final few weeks.
Absolutely right then, Dara. So, as we get things set, the drivers are making their way around for qualifying. We have no standings to go through just yet, and we've got no teams to cover either. So, let's take a look and see how things are getting on out there for the drivers then, as we bring up the timing tower. Who's at the top, Dara? 2 Ferraris lead the way in the elite class.
Anders Meyer, looking like he's got an advantage and a half. I don't really know how else to describe that. 7/10 of a second at Watkins Glen's outrageous, quite frankly, in that Ferrari. Interesting, I think, that we've got quite a few Ferraris now on the grid. I think the recent BOP maybe favouring that Ferrari just that little bit more, because we haven't seen many Ferraris for quite some time. Loads of McLarens down in Pro as well, whereas the championship kind of was more Porsche and Mercedes dominated in Series 12, Season 12. I think it's going to be a little bit more McLaren and Ferrari this time by, but interested to see if the likes of Lewis Kenyon can get a good lap in towards the end of the session. A driver who was right at the sharp end all the way through last season, and we'll see how he can do. And then there's just that 1,000th gap in Pro, Chris Jennings and Simon Clifton, and there's nothing to split them realistically. Good to see how competitive that championship's already looking like.
Yeah, looking good to see some familiar names. Plenty of new names as well, which is also very good to spice things up a little bit. A bit of a contrast there, Dara, between the elites and the pros. 1/1000th of a second, as you say, between Clifton and Jennings, but a bit more between those 2 Ferraris at the front. Lewis Kenyon then making his way around the final corner. He's going to look to go again. The drivers will have a good few attempts at this, remember. Open qualifying still. 30 minutes out there from the drivers. A shortened practice session, half an hour, and then a half an hour open qualifying session. Just over 11 minutes of which there are to go. Plenty of drivers looking to get on the second row of the grid, and a few of them actually, Dara, showing the same time. Nils Weaver and Ben Woodgate there, Ford and McLaren, with the exact same lap time as Nils dives into the pit lane.
Yeah, interesting to see how they're going to be towards the front of the field. But it's also interesting, I think, that you've got 17 pro cars that are split by a smaller gap than the top 2 in elite. I mean, that's just how big the advantage is for Anders Meyer at the front of the field, and he has already cemented himself as the one that everyone is going to be trying to mark themselves against. But to have 4 drivers at the top of Pro within half a tenth is fantastic to see. And like you said before, because this is an open qualifying session, we're going to be seeing those times continue to come in throughout the rest of the 10 minutes 30 that we have left. I think it's nicer to have this kind of open qualifying session. Kind of just gives drivers the chance to run it how they want to. There can be some excitement in doing, some kind of one-shot format, or even having just the 10 minutes set lap time where you've only really got 2 runs. But I quite like the ability to almost make it, in a way, a timed practice session. You can run it how you want. You just need to make sure you set a fast lap time at some point in the session. And I think for the time being, Anders Meyer can probably just maybe do some race stints, because he's got that big of an advantage. You'd struggle to see who's going to catch him.
Well, we're going to hope, Dara, that Anders goes on a hot lap now. If you don't mind talking us round the 11 corners of the Glen, I'm going to do some audio checks, and if that's all good, then I think we're all good. Here comes the leader then. Is he going to be able to extend that 7/10 margin down towards turn 1? He goes now.
Yep, let's see what he can do as he crosses the line. This is a very open turn 1. In NASCAR, they run it right off the road, but the iRacing track limits mean you have to keep it a little bit tighter, even though you can use all of that space on the outside. Through 2 and through 3, it's just flat to the floor. Carry all the speed, carry all the momentum. Take the line of least resistance as you work your way in towards this little right-hander that will give you the run all the way to the bus stop chicane. Bit of a weave there from Anders Meyer. Clearly isn't a fast lap from him, but he'll still fly into this bus stop chicane at pretty high speed. Go through the right, then keep it tight through the left. Don't take too much on the inside, though. It can bounce you out wide, and you can find yourself biting a wall. Then you're into the carousel. Slightly more open on exit here than if we were taking the shortened loop. But it's really important to nail the exit as you come in towards this toe and heel section. We're into the heel here as we work our way through the left-hander, and then it's a tricky right-hander going uphill, slightly off camber as well, and you've got to make sure that that car rotates all the way through. Get on the power early, run it out just a little bit wide, but there's no curb there. You've got to be oh so careful. Anders is then going to try and spot his braking point in towards turn number 8 as he tries to just about keep it tight. It's a really deceivingly slow corner here, because if you go too far wide, you're going to find yourself eating some grass on the exit, which won't allow you to get the car back to the right-hand side for turn number 9. Then it's just 2 more corners to go. You've got the penultimate corner and the final corner just left to run. The penultimate corner is a fast one, but you, again, have to be careful not to take too much. It's tempting to use a little bit more speed, but the outside can bite you hard if you bounce over that curb too high, and then all of a sudden you go from all that space to a wall on the exit through the final corner. Got to be careful not to hit that, but get the good lap time in, or get a good exit to get a good lap time in. And that's a lap here at Watkins Glen, I think, and is maybe going for yet another one.
Yeah, it looked like he was just warming up again at the end there. Maybe got caught up in some traffic in the final few corners. Decides to go again. Just 7.5 minutes left here to go. Riley Hitchman next to cross the line. He comes round final corner in his Ferrari for LS Racing. Got a nice little, well, maybe slightly far ahead for that Porsche to help him across the line. A second away from pole at the minute. Doesn't improve. Not too many green or purple sectors out there, Dara. There's Wesley Van Ren with one of them. I seem to remember Wesley tended to do that last time we were looking over him. 2 personal best sectors to get toward the end of his session. I don't think that's been enough to bump him up down there in 17th in his class, 6/10 away from pole position. Clifton and Jennings there, Dara. Clifton about across the line. Let's see if he can improve by just 1/1000th of a second to steal pole away from his class leader. And no, he can't. Still has to go again. Just under 7 minutes left.
Yep, not the longest of time when you've got a 100-second lap, and there's only about 400 seconds left to run in this session, so a couple of times laps, maybe 3 for these drivers left to go. Sven Beber coming up towards the line. He's only 7,000 safe to Woodgate and Waver, but he can't improve then. Interesting to note, because of the way that we've split the classes here in SRI, Elite and Pro should be relatively separate, and you can see in terms of the fact that the entirety of that top 20 in the Elite class are inside the time of the current Pro leader, so we won't see too much mixing between the classes off the start of the race, but that's almost by design, isn't it?
It is absolutely right, absolutely by design, and it seems to be working. I'm not sure how it's been for the last couple of seasons, but right now, getting underway with it, it's working quite well. It was quite a quiet pre-season round last week. 53 drivers with us in the session at the moment, and at the moment everyone set a lap time, something that didn't always used to happen. A few guys that left it awfully late sometimes didn't manage to convert a lap time, but tonight everyone has got it in. Fastest is a 41.3, slowest however is a 44.9. There in P53 overall. About to cross the line then is Ben Woodgate, and the Inter Racing team. He's tied with Nils Weaver behind him on that lap time, very close to a second row start. If they can just find less than a tenth of a second, just over half a tenth will do, and he goes off the McLaren. That might, no, he keeps it going. If he pulled off Dara, that could have been session over. Not that much time left to go.
Yep, not a long run to the end of the session now. Just the 5 minutes left. So drivers generally are going to be into their final lap or two. Loads of drivers, they're out on the circuit. Very few of them in the pit lane at this point. It is a busy old circuit here tonight at Watkins Glen in upstate New York, as we see bouncing through Ben Woodgate coming to the bus stop chicane. He will keep it tight through the carousel again. It's such a tricky corner. You can gain and lose so much time there. And I think a lap like this is tricky to put it all together. There's so many variables here, and there's so many longer corners where you really have to nail the acceleration points. Very easy to take it almost easier than you could, because you think that's the limit. But then also very easy to overstep that limit. And I think that's why drivers may hold a little bit back when they're in these qualifying laps. But it's difficult at a track like this to absolutely feel like you've nailed every corner, because it's less about the braking and acceleration and more about the minimum apex speed, which can be difficult to judge. But seems like the likes of Anders Meyer have got it, I mean, absolutely nailed on.
He absolutely does. I kind of thought that margin would come down slightly as the session's gone out. It'll be interesting to see how he does at the start of the race, if he can get himself a good margin in the early stages. Lewis Kenyon will be with him, I'm sure, biting at his heels at the start of this race. Down toward turn one, pretty inviting entry into the corner. Lots of runoff as well. Drivers know that's there available for them to use. As we always say, Dara, it's important to be as high up the grid as you can be, but there are less forgiving turn ones, where like for example, like Bathurst next week. That'll be an interesting one. Pressure on, actually. 90 minutes, a long race. If you mess up tonight and then you arrive at Bathurst tomorrow and have an issue at the start, it's going to be a difficult entry into the championship. So far, so good though for the guys on the first few rows of the grid.
Yeah, I think it's good that it's tight for third. You know, you've got 6 drivers within 0.06 of a second, which is fantastic to see. They're a long way back off Anders Meyer, but you know, to have that competition towards the front is exactly what we want. That might be it for Harvey Wheeler. But a slight reminder, of course, because this is an open qualifying session and we only have the one race to come, when the session hits 0, you can finish the lap that you're on. So they've still got time to get around again and complete another lap. We aren't quite into what would be quote-unquote white flag territory, where the drivers are starting their final runs, but we're nearly there. I don't think you could do back-to-back runs. So many of the guys on a lap now will be on their final timed lap.
Yeah, and there's still a very busy circuit out there. There are about 40 cars out on the track now, not too many of them in the pit lane. Riley Hitchman has just gone and put his Ferrari on the second row of the grid. Still nearly a second away, though, from the pole man at the moment. And again, 1/1000th between him and Kieran Sharp. And Kieran is in the pit lane, so he's probably not going to have a response for that one. But the competitiveness between from third down, even really to 12th, is pretty incredible between those guys. Lamborghinis, Ferraris, McLarens and Fords in the mix there, so lots of good variety. I think that's going to be it for Riley. He moves out the way before heading through the boot, sends it back to the pit lane. Is anyone going to have a response then? As you rightly said, these guys will get another go at it, but if you can't find a gap on the track at the moment, you're going to struggle, because it's still so busy out there.
It really is. I don't think we're going to see many circuits by the end of a qualifying session this season be very much emptier than this. It's going to be very busy indeed as we get towards the final couple of minutes, and these drivers are now on their final timed laps. Sven Berber needs to do just that little bit extra. Half a tenth would get him onto the second row of the grid. Same really for Niels Weber, who is currently in 8th as he comes around the final corner. Will get one more go. Slight improvement in sector 4 of the 5 sectors here at Watkins Glen. Can he just about find that improvement to the line? 43.8's not going to be enough to improve. It's actually a 42.7, so they're running about 1.1 seconds quicker than it initially states on that timing column. But at the moment, no one's improving, and the top 4 in the pits, they're done. It's down to the likes of Baber and Woodgate to see if they can jump up the field.
Yeah, I'm keeping my eyes down there on the pro class, but unfortunately a lot of drivers heading back into the pit lane at the moment. Danny Phillips is out there. He's not far away. Remember, not many of these guys are top 5, just outside a 10th, should I say. Top 4 within half a 10th. So Danny Phillips will fancy his chances here. Ben Woodgate improving in the third of 5 sectors as he comes around the final corner. Doesn't need much in it. One sector of an improvement will do for him. How's the last one? Not great. I think that's done. He will go one more time. No improvement on that lap then. Danny Phillips still going at the moment. We'll get him up on the timing tower. I think he's had a good sector 2, and apart from that, everyone down to David Hutchison in the Axis SimSports SimWorks car is in the pit lane. So let's see, Simon Clifton in, Patrick down there in the elite class in as well. Let's ride on board with Danny Phillips as he heads around the final couple of sectors. He's about the only man who can do something. Chris Jennings improves there right at the end of the session. He's gone from 1/1000th to 600. Is that 2 cars off on the left there? It is. That's not the way they want to end their qualifying session, but it hasn't fazed Danny Phillips as he heads around the final corner now.
Danny Phillips is realistically the last hope for anybody to try and knock Chris Jennings off pole, nearly into the wall on the outside. Can he find enough time in the final sector to just about scrape himself forward? I'm not exactly sure he can, but he's not far off. What's the time going to be? It's a 42.976, so in the end, a lap time that would have been good enough on its own for P6, but he will stay in P3. Bobby Moss coming around the final couple of corners now in his McLaren. He only needs half a tenth of a second to take him to pole. That's how close it is down there in Pro. Doubt he'll find that much, but a purple sector 4, that's a huge improvement. Can he find any more time around the rest of the lap? I'm not sure he can, but to have a purple sector 4, he does improve in the end. Couple of tenths to P8, but only 1,000th off Ollie Pimley in 7th, so good improvement at the end for Bobby Moss. The only real driver in the top 10 of each, or of either class, to really pick it up at the end.
And a slam there by Lewis Hammond into the wall, into the pits. He goes then, the only driver left out there on the track, Sam Hockley of Chaffs Motorsport in his McLaren. And yeah, I'm glad that Bobby did that for us actually, Dara. A bit of action right toward the end will never go amiss. Got himself up from 13th or 14th, somewhere like that, up into the top 8. That's a McLaren dominated top 10 there, Dara. 1 BMW with 4 and 4 in front and behind. That's not quite... You know, it's, in fact, I'm even looking at the elite standings, Dara. There's quite a few of an order going on down there, so it's good to see the favourites. And, you know, when I left, Dara, it was a lot of Acuras and a lot of Porsches, so it's nice to see a bit of variety out there, apart from at the top of the Pro class, of course.
Yeah, it is nice to see that, because it's never fun when you just have that kind of, you know, one-size-fits-all series where everyone's got the same car. So nice to see that variety, nice to see that drivers are going different ways in their car choices. But end of the first qualifying session of the season, drivers will be able to look at the order and get a sense of who they think they're fighting, where they think their pace is going to put them over the course of the season. I think it's quite an exciting read to have as a driver.
It absolutely is. So the drivers have a chance for a 5-minute warm-up now before the season gets themselves underway. A theme that I left was a lot of drivers taking the opportunity to get themselves out there on the track. A few drivers heading out down pit lane now, so it's always nice just to see the people go out, probably try some high fuel loads on those fresh tyres at the end of the qualifying session, and then we'll be underway with the opening of the race. There you can see not too much of a busy pit lane, only 3 or 4 drivers making their way out, and one of them is Mr. Paul Cowlishaw for Sumo Racing, a new entry in my eyes, usually with the GPX team. That's a nice looking livery that Paul has on that Porsche. A rare Porsche out there, Dara. Not so many of them. In fact, having a quick look at them down, I think there's only 2 or 3 of them. I wonder why that is for Paul, why he's made that choice so different to others. But it is a bit of a favourite GT3, hasn't it, Dara? It's been so dominant for such a long time now. And some people like to stick to what they know.
Yeah, it's the old faithful, isn't it? I think you just put it perfectly there when you said it's what you know, because I think a lot of drivers will want that stability underneath them, will want to have a feeling of confidence and security in what they're driving, and not that they're driving on the limit every single corner.
Oh.
You know, everyone has a different driving style, and, well, that's not ideal. Thank God it's warm-up session. Everyone's got a different driving style. That kind of, you know, smoother rear end, the more... reliable throttle application can be a little bit more helpful for drivers. The cars, I think more like the Acuras, the Corvettes, that are a little bit more on the edge, could, you know, favour a more aggressive driving style where you're running right on the limit and almost sliding the car into a couple of corners. So not really a surprise to see a couple of Porsches left. Maybe more of a surprise that there aren't that many left. But I think it's kind of the car that everyone knows they can depend on. It's almost the Volvo of the GT3 world, isn't it?
That's absolutely right. There's a few of those that have made their, state the claim for that one over the last couple of seasons. But I am a big fan of the return of the Lamborghini and the Ferrari. Nice to see a couple of those doing well at the front. Then the track is getting a little bit busier. A few cars going off, and as you said, Dara, when we saw poor Mr. Cowlishaw going into the wall, it's a good thing. It's a good use of the time. It's different feel in the car from qualifying for sure. So it's a good opportunity to just test how you think it should feel, test the limit on cold tyres, and Cowlishaw found that limit, but at least he's done it now and not in the race. So value in that one for sure. Harvey Wheeler crosses the line in this train of cars, the McLaren, the Mustang, and the Ferrari in behind. And it's good to get a good look at the liveries. We always say at the start of every season, Dara, which ones are we picking out? I must say, I like the look of Cowlishaw's when he was out there, and that one, give us a nice pirouette. Good look on the side there, but yeah, Cowlishaw so far for me, Dara, from what we've seen.
Yep, and it's good that we have lots of variety, of course. And as you said, at the start of every season, everyone goes away, does something different, and comes back with their best work. And it is fun to see different drivers with different cars on the grid. We're going to have more than enough time this evening, I think, to have a look at a lot of them. 90-minute race, of course, hour and a half. The driver's really going to have to think about strategy in this one. Which way do they go on it? And it is a settler, isn't it, into the series. You can't try and win it on lap one. It's the old cliche, but the longer the race, you look at Le Mans. The first hour you don't want to do anything wrong at all. You want to make sure that you get through the first part of the race, particularly when it's the start of the season as well. You don't want to put yourself onto the back foot. So I think we're generally going to see quite a cautious race from a lot of people. So I think maybe a little less attrition than you'd otherwise see if this was more of a sprint race evening. So, I think a settler that the drivers are looking for tonight.
Yeah, I think I'd like to agree. I hope that's what will happen. Let's see as we come down into turn one. I think that is the best course for a lot of these guys. Gone are the days of those 30-minute sprint races, even shorter. I remember, Dara, we used to have the 3 20-minute races. I think it was in the GT4s or the TCRs a few years ago. Gone are those 90 minutes for these drivers to think about now. And with such a packed field, there's obviously a couple of areas on the circuit that will be require some particular caution from the drivers out there. Of course, the boot is the obvious one, but there's still a couple of tricky traction zones, particularly coming around the final couple of corners over that curb as well, running wide there. Prime example, couldn't quite keep it on the circuit as we get towards the end of the warm-up session then. And it's been good to watch, interesting to see the order at the start. We'll run through the qualifying grid, of course, once the drivers get on their formation lap. But I'm thankful, Dara, that we're nearly half an hour in. Only been one technical problem, and now we're ready to do some racing. So fingers crossed we get a good start down here.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Let's see who can kind of get the launch. Can we see a pull away at the front from our pole sitter? Will we see a bit of a battle in behind? I've got long to find out. 90 minutes going to be on the clock. And is that a full formation lap to look forward to? It is, Joe. It is.
It is. Wow, a very dense, very dense grid that we've got here. So we'll skim through the pages. I'll try and make that a little bit smaller this time next week. But let's have a look. I'd love to have the first names on there as well, but we'll roll through it as the drivers make their way around them. So Anders Myers leads at the front of the field in his 109 Ferrari. He'll share the front row of the grid ahead of Lewis Kenyon. Riley Hitchman and Kieran Sharp will be in third and fourth, and it's Brandon Dyer ahead of Sven Beber and Ben Woodgate inside the top 7. Nils Weaver and Harvey Wheeler, Milton Tomlinson Dennis and Craig Wardock ahead of Daniel Pillman and Peter Duke. I need to scroll through the pages, Dara. I'm reading these names arguably for the first time, so do forgive me if there's a few that are being butchered. Then into Chris Jennings and Simon Clifton ahead of Patrick Falconer and Danny Phillips. The the drivers underway now. Let me pull away to a different camp. God, there's a lot of them, driver. I don't even know if I'm going to make it to the end, if I'm totally honest with you. Ben Hunter and Mr. Cornish, Craig Cornish ahead of Benjamin Hunter, James Meade and David Hutchinson, the top 30, and we're only into the top 6 in the Pro Class, so it really is a stacked order at the front. As he said in qualifying, Dara, 19 elite class drivers, in fact no, 20 in front of all of the runners at the front of the Pro Class, and that is a mean field, Dara. I'm not sure how it's been recently, but 53 is quite a stacked pack that are going to be going at it in a very short while.
Yep, I think to have so many cars on the circuit means that you've got to be careful on the opening lap, particularly through 2, 3 and 4, because you can see right here there's walls on both sides and it's very easy to go wrong, and the second one domino falls and you start to see a lot of different drivers jostling for position. It just takes that one car to go off the road for the chain reaction to start and everybody else in behind having to dive out of the way. So you've got to be careful on the opening lap here. I think everybody's aware of that. To be careful behind the pace car through the bus stop chicane. Very unnatural lines that they're taking through here, but we're getting our way around most of the lap to get the season underway.
We are a few points to remember then. We will have 70% fuel capacity on all the cars, which will of course require a pit stop, and the drivers have 2 fast repairs available to them in this 90-minute race. Just one for the normal 1 hour, but in this extended format, 2 fast repairs. So a problem at the start, although it's not good for fuel strategy, at least you can get yourself back out there and know that you've still got one more lifeline in the bag. An early mistake in those hour races can be very costly indeed. They'll be costly in this one too, but at least the drivers know they've got a little bit of a cushion to fall back on then. 16X and 26 for a disqualification. Got to be careful on the runoffs. A lot of places to pick up small X's, especially right at the start, where these guys jostle for position then. Rolling starts, as always, the lead 2 cars have to go as soon as the green light is waved, within 1 second, and everyone else in behind them files in and files off, should I say, one after one down toward the first corner then. Toward the end of the lap, Dara, I'm going to give it over to you to take us down into turn 1, but 3 Ferraris lead ahead of a Lamborghini and a couple of McLarens as well, so keep your eyes out for those exchanges. And no one, I'm seeing, Dara, no one sharing some good positions on the grid in the same team, so it's a bit of a free-for-all out there for at least the top 7 or 8 drivers.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see who can get that jump in just a couple of corners' time, but I think this is going to be a really interesting opening corner or 2, opening few. Let's hope they can all get through cleanly, that no one races ruined in the first 30 seconds of a 90-minute race, but it's not on to find out, Joe.
Absolutely is then. So we're about to get underway. The season opener, 2 Ferraris will lead the pace cars in, and once the green flag flies, we are underway for the opening round here at Watkins Glen. Let's see as the cars come down toward turn 1. It's a good start for Riley in P3. He's got himself up the inside and past Kenyon, and the lead car cuts off the attack from the inside there, and he holds his position out wide. Everyone else filing through then, making it through the exit of the opening corner. They're all menacing and coming through as the top 30 have only passed the screen. There's still another 20 of them to come through. So far, so good until now. And that's a Ferrari off. That's one of the TCRC cars. And that's going to create a bit of a pile up there. 3 or 4, 5 cars involved. And the track has been heavily congested there, Dara. Not what you like to see at the start of a season. People are going to struggle to get through there, I think, now.
But it's exactly what we said, isn't it? It just takes one at the front and everyone piles in. It's unlucky, but I think a lot of the guys at the back have got through cleanly just by going very slowly indeed. But there's at least a dozen cars that they're going to require a pit stop intervention to get themselves back into the running. Oh, another spin in the background. I think it was a bit of a slide. There could have been some contact there, but generally many of them have got through cleanly, but a couple more coming across. It's a little bit more aggressive than I expected on the opening lap here. You can see meatball flag for Sam Hockley. He's going to drop him all the way down the order, but that was Peter Duke getting involved. He's down to P15.
8 drivers already in the pit lane, many more struggling down there at the back. Daniel Pillman for NJB Performance down 31 places overall, 9 in class, down to 21st in the elite class then. So the front 3 have held station. Initially, Riley had got himself past Lewis Kenyon, but they've exchanged positions once again. Some of the bigger gainers are people who've come right down from the back of the pack. Everyone inside the top 15 gaining about 5 or 6 places over those who were struggling. Sven Bieber's gone into the pit lane as well as Nils Weaver. Everyone else continuing down toward turn 1. A little blink out. That's a dense pack of 5 or 6 cars there coming down into turn 1. A big gap already at the front door. 1.6 seconds the gap to the leader already. That's the qualifying pace that we saw coming out right at the start of this. He survived that pile up, got himself away, didn't allow himself to get swallowed up, and now he might be able to extend that gap lap after lap, while the rest of the drivers in behind them from 4th onwards stay tightly knit together as they head through the boot once again.
Yep, and they're all together in that group of, with maybe Ben Woodgate getting involved here, Jared Love in here too, but they've got a couple of the pro drivers just in behind them, so big little moments at the start of this race, but already there's big gaps forming because of the incidents that we've seen, and that's not too much of a surprise to see those gaps. But I mean, look at the pro class: Baker, Hockley, Harris. They're outside the top 20, and yet they've been in the pit lane, which shows how much attrition there's been down there in pro. But Clifton, Phillips, Jennings, they're at the front of the field. They can kind of pull away. In the elite class, you've already got that gap at the front of the field with 1.8 seconds and growing between Meyer and Kenya. Yeah,
there's about a quarter of the field have already been in the pit lane then, I believe. Let me just... Yeah, there's a hefty number have already been in the pit lane, more than 10 for sure, closer to 15 I think. So heavy damage, most of them in the pro class. As you rightly said, we'll try and cut back to that one once things settle down at the moment. And the closest battle at the front is between Andy Jones here. He's got Richard Simnor all over him then. We'll see if we can bring up the other times in just a second so we can see that individual battle. And as Myers has set the fastest lap at the front of 42.7. Driver in behind him's last lap was a 43.0, so 3/10 in it between the lead pair. Extending the gap at the front is the 109 Ferrari, and a bit of pressure here. Look at that, the BMW was nearly touching the rear there of that Mustang, who has lost the inside. It's going to have to go around the outside. BMW gets that one done nicely before they get on the brakes. And there was a damaged McLaren back there. I'm not sure if that's just happened. He's just ahead of Chris Jennings, I think. 2 cars ahead, could be Peter Duke or Woodgate at the front of the order there. I think this might be the one. Is he missing his front bumper there, Dara? Yes, he is. He's continuing on though. Maybe he doesn't want to use his fast repair. Still a long way in this race left to go. And if he feels the damage isn't too bad, he can stay out there. Let's see how his times do though.
Yep, let's see. Ooh, Duke will make sure that he gets himself through there, but missing a lot of important parts on that car. You wouldn't buy it from the showroom looking like that, would you? So he's going to have to be dealing with that for as long as he possibly can. He might come in now. See if he continued onwards towards the half race distance. This is a race that should be able to be done on a one stop by rights. Unless we've lowered the fuel tanks too far, but I don't remember seeing that we lowered them far enough that it would require a secondary stop in the pit lane. So let's see how drivers can try and get this done in one if they can. But I think there is that risk, particularly for the drivers that have already pit, that they will have to go for the 2-stop. I know that many drivers ran to around the 40-minute mark. It is the 70% max fuel limit. Many drivers ran to the 40-minute mark or so in the last couple of seasons. If they can scratch that out just that little bit more, they'll be able to get it to 45. But I think there'll definitely be a few splashes and dashes.
Yeah, I think so. I think there'll definitely be some people who are definitely pushing for a one-stop to make sure they have a healthy strategy. Some people might not have such fortune, but we've got a good battle here going in toward the boot between Clifton and Ollie Pimley. I think Ollie's just on his outside there, goes off the track in the process. I think he's going to get done by Dadapa now, who's his new battle. Laurent Dadapa set the fastest lap time of class on the last lap, so he's doing very well. Currently up into 4th. He's got himself past the McLaren, so gone from battling 3rd down to 5th for Ollie. He's got to stick on the back of this McLaren train. 5 McLarens leading at the front of the pro class. Sean Britton back a few seconds back, so he's not going to be part of this battle anytime soon, but a good one on for the podium, and the gap toward the front not so big. The gap at the front of the elite class continues to grow then 4/10 this time over Lewis Kenyon, so comfortable at the moment for Anders Myers. Let's see how he manages that. It can get pretty lonely up there. He's got to stay focused. Only just now starting on the 4th lap of this race, but let's ride on board for a while with the fastest man in the pro class, and let's see how this lap goes on for Laurent. A pretty familiar face around these parts now. He's come after Simon Clifton, who equally has his fair share of races with us at SRI. And it looks, Dara, like it's going to be a nice and easy one down the inside into turn 1.
Yep, and let's see if he can get this one done on the exit, because you can run it around the outside here. Looks like the Dapper's going to be able to hold on. Clifton's going to try it right around the outside. Can he get any kind of side-by-side draft? No, not enough to get himself alongside through turn 3. Careful, because you've got Ollie Pimley right in the background looking to try and benefit from all of this as well. Simon Clifton on the outside line as they go in towards the bus stop chicane. Can he get enough of a run to go right the way around the outside? It's so tricky to do so there. You've got to be brave. He's not able to do it. And Lawrence the Dapper holds on. Good move in the end from the Dapper. Let's see if he can, make this work for him, pull away a touch and allow Ollie Pimley to pressure Simon Clifton as they won their way through the carousel.
Yeah, we could see the Dapper right on the back of Jennings in a few laps' time. The gap's not that large to overcome. He's done very well in the last few laps. He's got to hope that Ollie Pimley gets himself on the back of the McLaren, which is exactly what he's doing. That'll help Lauren get away nicely up the road, and Ollie will want to claim back his P4. He might even have a chance to do it here if he's feeling brave. Clifton opts to stay to the left. Is it going to be a late lunge by the McLaren? Thinks about it, and he is going to go down the inside. Is the room going to be afforded? I think just about they've made it through the corner. Might have been some minor contact, not enough to throw the McLaren off. Now forced to the outside. Tricky corner to get the traction down, and it looks like they've both done equally as good a job as one another. Ollie's going to have to wait now, see if he can repeat what Laurent did to Mr. Clifton on the last lap. Get him a good exit out the final corner. See if he can get an easy one down into turn 1. You'd think if the rear McLaren there manages to get himself alongside, Simon might learn from the last lap, defend a little bit differently. Doesn't look like he's as close as the Dapper was on this lap. And John Breitenbach, in fact, no, that's not John Breitenbach, that is a blue flag, I believe, in that Lamborghini in behind them. I was going to say they're going to get involved, Dara, but I think not.
A little bit too far back at the moment, but I mean, not even 10 minutes in. There's a long way to go here at Watkins Glen. We're still very much settling into this race. Ollie Pimley, look, oh, oopsie, that's my microphone falling over.
I heard it.
Ollie Pimley is just about on the back of Simon Clifton. Can't quite make a move, but I mean, again, there's no real rush at this stage, and to sit in behind for the time being and save some fuel is going to be beneficial by the end as well.
Absolutely is. That laughter there, Dara, it's good to be back. It's funny, just those little things that happen. And I'm standing here thinking it's nice to be back, because after such a long break, you kind of, I don't know, you forget that you ever did it, and then you come back and it's like nothing's changed. So thankfully the text worked. You're here, you're working, you're doing what you normally do very well, and I'm doing my best to get back into the rhythm of it. The technical part seems to be okay. Now it's just more about the words that come out of my mouth, which should hopefully be fine. 3-second gap to the leader in the pro class, and I'm just enjoying calling all this out again, It's good stuff, and the liveries are looking fine as well, by the way. I've been having a little look as we've been going on. It was Caldershaw that caught my eye before, but I think a few of them might have beaten that one on the way there, Dara. But yeah, good to be back, good to see the racing. Everything's been mostly clean. I forgot to go back, actually. In a moment, we'll go and see what happened if we can, right at the start of the race. But since then, not much to report. A couple of pieces of damage here and there, but some good battles all over. Riley Hitchman looks like he's going to be the next one to apply a little bit of pressure, or to have the pressure applied to him, should I say.
Yep. And on liveries quickly, I think if you've not seen it already, the Breitenbach livery, similar to last season, is absolutely delightful.
Have a look.
Yeah, I mean, have a guess where they're from, right?
No.
But
let's see if this works.
Absolutely. Oh, it's absolutely gorgeous. It was the same last season, and I'm so pleased they've kept it, because it just looks fantastic. Springbok on the side as well, for any avoidance of doubt. And it's great that Jean and Marcel are looking resplendent in their Ferrari and their McLaren respectively. And John doing a good job at the moment, comfortably in 6th. He's as close to the leader as he is to the car directly behind him. So a good race so far for him, and he's put himself into a good position to build from.
He has, yeah. They've always done such a good job with these liveries, right, since back in the day. I'm not sure what season exactly, but these two early adopters back in ESR could have been the first couple of seasons for sure. And they've always had same but different, Dara. It's always been the same kind of theme, style, colours, of course. That doesn't need to be said. But they've done a fantastic job. However, as you can see there, Dara, at the front of that one, he's got a bill to pay for the front of that McLaren. Johns was looking in fine fit-up, but sadly, same cannot be said about Marcel. The Aston Martin, the Quatermass Aston Martin, that's an all too familiar livery as well. All over the back of the Englishman, Bobby Moss in his McLaren, just pulling away slightly now. Could have been a mistake by Nils. That brought Dominic back in to that one. And as we said just before we cut away there, Dara, it's this man at the front, Kieran Sharp, who's putting good pressure on the top 4 at the moment. The only 2 drivers inside the top 10 to have lost positions from the start of this race, Mr. Riley and Kieran in P4 and P5. Brandon Dyer has gained 2 places. He sits in 3rd, but the margin toward the front getting bigger and bigger, and I think, Dara, that will extend for the next hour and 15 minutes, if I'm totally honest.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you too much there. It's looking pretty ominous for the time being, isn't it? We're not even a 6th of the way through the race yet, and that lead gap is basically 5 seconds. So that's going to be interesting for everyone else to try and work out where they can find the time as we get to next week. I mean, I'm saying that already as if he's won the race, but there's still 76 minutes to go. Lewis Kenyon already quite lonely as well in P2. I hope he doesn't get too bored twiddling his thumbs there, because if he does twiddle too much, Brandon Dyer's going to start catching up, because he's only a couple of seconds back, and then you've got this train as well. Lovely, there's the interval gaps, thanks Jane. Showing you where the closest battles are on the circuit. You've got the battle for the lead in Pro, but outside of that, there's only really one tight battle on the circuit inside the top 20 already. And I think after that lap 1 of chaos, I think drivers are just trying to settle down in this race. Yeah,
I was just in 2 minds about whether I wanted to show that one there, Dara, but it's something that I should have done a while ago. So we've had 15 minutes of looking at the gap times to the leaders, and now we get some interval times. And it's always nice for the people at home to be able to just keep an eye on how their driver is doing. Of course, for the drivers as well, they can reference this to try and find their overtakes. Good battling here as they head through the inner loop, through the boot. Not the boot, sorry, I keep calling it the boot, Dara. I've made that mistake 3 times. It's not the boot. But it's alright. It's one mistake. We'll look past it. Good battle. And again, I hate to keep coming back to livery, Dara, but I haven't seen many of these teams. Obviously, we've got some familiar ones, the 3M guys and DXT and Axis, and obviously what we highlighted before, the Brayton Back Brothers in their familiar cars. But yeah, this is a very nice one indeed, and a team that seemed to be performing pretty well. They've got both drivers inside the top 12. Andrew Pike down there in 12th. Kieran Sharp fighting at the sharp end of the field. Pardon that one, that wasn't actually unintentional. But the cars in behind him getting a bit scrappy. LS Racing and Team UKSR, the ones doing most of the fighting, and I guess the Lamborghini ahead will hope that continues. But it's a 4-way fight at the moment for a position inside the top 5.
Yep. Not a long way to go up into the top 5, is it? For him, and it's good to see that we do have this tightly knit train running their way across the start-finish line once again. Fastest lap of the race for Anders Meyer. I mean, it was 4/10 clear of anybody else last time by. He is looking incredibly ominous at the start of this season as we fly behind him. With the helicam? Is it a drone cam? It's moving too fast.
Well,
helicam.
No, it's a drone cam that's being controlled very well, unlike the ones in Formula 1, but that's okay. I'm actually... No, not at all. It's fun. It's fun. I'm glad this still works. I didn't know if I had this set up for for Watkins Glen, and I'm just hitting buttons and hoping that there's something connected to it, and so far there has been. So we've not got too many left to go. A few toward the end, which it's quite fun when you press the button, you don't know if it's going to work, and then you have to adapt. But so far, so good, and it's good to see the Ferrari lapping cleanly, lapping consistently, proving that qualifying was not just a fluke. He's 6 seconds clear after just 17 minutes of racing here. It's going to be a long race, but I'm sure he will enjoy it. Gives him some freedom when it comes to fueling and pit stops. He can be driving off the limit, even though, well, it doesn't really look like he's on the limit, Dara, but he's setting faster and faster lap times, lap after lap, nearly at this point. So he must be pushing to an extent, but there's some conservation that he can do if he wants to. Admit that's very, very comfortable for himself indeed. No challenge at all inside the top 3. Big gaps between all of Maya, Kenyon and Dyer. A battle for 4th still heating up, dropping off ever so slightly. As you can see, there's 2 cars involved in that one now. And in the pro class, Dara, we've got Chris Jennings, who's gaining on the leader, but not as much as Wesley Van Ren is gaining on Sven Beber ahead of him in his McLaren. Had a nose up the inside there, not enough to demand the space, backs out, but he put pressure on the driver ahead there for sure in the final sector.
Yep, he did, and good to see that the drivers are still applying a little bit of pressure, getting into the wing mirrors. This isn't a circuit that is famous for overtaking. It's a tricky little one to crack, isn't it? You've got many of these corners that are higher speed, and so it is tricky to make a send, make a dive, like you would at the Red Bull Ring at 1, 3, 4. So a little bit more difficult to curate a move, but once you're able to create a chance, I think it's important you have to take it. But just almost trying to put the driver that you're racing off is often the best way. Oh, well, it's a little bit wide there from Leon Seeley in his Mustang. But yeah, getting into the wing mirrors, trying to almost confuse your opponent is often almost the best way to overtake at a track like this.
It is. I've just realised that poor Mr. Corey Price is racing out there. Let me just double check that he is racing out there. Yes, he is. You see, Dara, he's not registered to any of the classes there. So I'll go ahead and get Mr. Corey added back. Bobby Moss still going at it. We've got Patrick in behind up the inside of the Audi there. Looks like the Audi going a little bit slowly. The car in behind him, the other TSRC esports car, might be looking to get past him in a short while. Then I'll leave you with this lead pack. The drivers battling for a space inside the top 4, and Corey Price in this battle, and soon he should be in that timing tower as well. Give me just a moment.
But there is a lot, I think, that's going on the circuit, isn't there? It's good to see that we have a lot of drivers that have turned up tonight. Thankfully, we haven't somehow coincided with an England game. That would have been slightly, frustrating for us all, I think. But good that there's only the Spain game on, so everyone generally will be here to participate in the race. And I think good that we have such a full grid to start this season. Almost all of the possible drivers to feast our eyes upon. Loads of guys that will be here to kind of get their foot in the door for the championship, see where they lie. New guys, first time races in SRI, and then you've also got the guys that have been around for a very, very long time as well. So new and old all mixing together in a race like this. This is, of course, season 13 of your Thursday night GT3 action. Previously, of course, ESR, now having merged with SRI under the new banner, but the 13th Thursday night season that we've seen, and so many drivers, so many champions have been crowned and trophies have been handed out, of course, thanks to our sponsors Kamei, who do such a fantastic job on the trophies. Really are a prize that drivers want to get their hands on, that want to be able to lay claim to by the end of the season. Really is a prestigious title at this point as well, with the Motorsports UK esports backing that we very thankfully have, and it is great that we have their support, and loads of drivers that, of course, come from that community into SRI. And a lot of these guys, weren't here when yourself and I started on comms together all those seasons ago. Initially for Lewis there, it's just gone off the road. You can see the background. He's now down to 6th, as Kenyon now is the one that is going to be coming a little bit of a cropper. But yeah, loads of guys that are new from the last few seasons, but really enjoying what they're doing here in the series. That's why we can field 2 full lobbies. Of course, this is the A split with myself and Joe. B split with Mr. Paul Walsh from the broadcast is over on the SRI YouTube channel still, and lots of action going on there as well. We've got 2 of the classes, and Paul is covering the other 2 that are participating, but loads of action over the course of this season to look forward to, and we're just getting started, Joe.
We are, yeah. Thank you for that filler there, Dara. I've got him back in. There he is. Simple as shoot. Nice and
filler. What
easy.
Filler?
Sorry, I didn't mean.
No, I'm joking.
I didn't mean it like that. You know what I mean. But thank you for that one. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I wasn't listening, but I'm just glad that Corey.
Neither was I.
I'm just. Neither was the viewer, actually. I'm just glad that Corey's back in the list. He's riding in 4th. We've missed him all evening, so Corey, apologies if you're watching this. Plenty of screen time now for the Altitude 3M esports machine, who is sitting in 4th place. He was the mystery car, was in the fray, but not in the timing tower, and he's doing well to hold off the cars in behind them. That pack, his teammate in P2, doing well to hold on to what he's got, and Harvey getting awfully close there. One mistake on the entry or the exit of these curbs can really upset the car, and that can allow the driver behind to make it quite easy heading into this next sequence of corners. Things beginning to settle down. Apart from here, we've got Quinton looking to make his move on the Audi, and he does up the inside, takes P13 down there in the pro class. So Dara, about half an hour in, a third of the way through. Tyres will be doing okay. They'll be in a good window, I believe, for most of these drivers now, and I guess you want to start thinking about fuel. If anything, some of these guys are going full on. I'm not going to be worried about that at all. Others, however, might want to start thinking about that now and see what we can gain by staying out there a little bit longer.
Yep. I think that's an important factor now. I think a lot of the fuel has been, or a lot of the thinking has been about the fuel in the last 10 minutes or so as we get towards that 1/3 race distance. Still, a very long way to go and a lot of time for drivers to work it out. But yeah, I think nailing that 1 stop is going to be the best way of getting through this race, and the best chance that the drivers have of coming out with a really good result. So they've got to be wary of that, definitely, as we get towards what would be the end of the stint. They're definitely now over halfway through their first stint, without a doubt, whether they take 1 or 2 stops. So something to keep a little bit of a mind on. Jared Love here, P13, having to fight his way with some of the pro drivers, which is not what he needs at all. So they're on their way nearly together. You almost couldn't see them there. So they're on their way through. And so I believe it was a pro driver. These are the 2 leading pro drivers, Phillips and Jennings. There's not a lot to separate them at the moment.
No, this one's come out of nowhere, really. I'm glad it's welcomed, that's for sure. We've got 2 McLarens battling out for the lead of their respective class. The same can't be said in the elite class, of course. 11 seconds now between Meyer and Dyer, and I think they've come to accept that is all that they are going to have. Still not said and done for either of them, especially not Brandon in P2. But least of all, the safety here for Danny Phillips is getting less and less. Chris Jennings putting pressure on the lead McLaren driver, and again, if we were any closer to the pit window, it'd be a bit of a game between the 2 of them. Not quite there yet, though, so we're going to have to wait a little bit longer for that. Pressure in behind as well. I don't think that's with 2 drivers on the lead lap. No, it's not. That's the 2 drivers from earlier on. Down there, it was Jan, I believe it was. But further down. But Danny doing what he can at the moment for DXT Magenta, holding on, but he's got to keep an eye in his mirrors now. Just survive this pressure from Chris Jennings, who's been around the block in this series, Tara, and he knows how to win as well.
He does. And he's been, through it all, really, in SRI, in terms of the A, emotions, and B, the positions that you can finish a race in. Ollie Pimley, keep an eye on him. He's going to set the fastest lap of the race in the pro class. He's sitting in 4th, trying to chase after Lawrence de Dapper, so keep an eye on him over the next 15-20 minutes. But it is Danny Phillips, who he's been around for a while, isn't he, here? He knows the series very well indeed, as does Chris. And it's good to see those two leading the way after nearly half an hour of the opening race of the season, as they fly their way through the bus stop chicane, taking the tightest lines that they can, and then flowing it through the carousel. You can see the slight difference there. Later apex for Danny Phillips, slightly earlier for Chris, and Danny's got the better exit, but lost a little bit in the entry. It's all the very fine margins that you get from those little decisions that they end up making.
Yeah, exactly. The give and take of it all. You can't always have it all. Danny Phillips certainly doesn't have it all at the moment, but yeah, let's see the differences in style. We're right on board a little while, see if he manages to get himself a good exit at one point, get himself alongside. He might just fancy taking it easy at the moment. Of course, he'll be checking on his lap times and seeing what the drivers around him are doing, but he has a comfortable gap behind him. No threat there, 2.2 seconds to Lawrence de Dapper, who's moved on from those earlier positions. He's gained 6 places in class, 17 overall, but particularly 6 in class off the start of the race, so a great position that he finds himself in. He might be happy to convert that podium. He's got Ollie, the fastest man in class, behind him though, so that's not easy to do at all. Danny Phillips managing the gap very well at the moment, but that allows Chris to maybe just take it easy, come off the accelerator a little bit earlier, save a little bit more fuel, maybe try and get him at the pit stops, given that he's got no pressure in behind.
Yeah. And he's got the ability to push on, as you say, without having to worry about drivers kind of getting in his own wing mirrors and getting involved that way. So, good spot to be in if you're Chris Jennings. You can kind of dictate the races you want to right now. And again, when you're sitting in P2 like this, you can game out the race a little bit more. And I think that's exactly what he's going to be doing here. He's going to be gaming out exactly how he's going to run this race. He has the ability to save a bit more fuel by being in the slipstream. So, I think he's playing the long strategic game, which is what you really should be doing in a 90-minute race like this. It's going to give you the best advantage, I believe, the best chance at what could possibly be at least a podium-winning evening for him, if not a winning evening overall. And if you can make that move in the pit stop phase and not actually have to make it on track, even better.
Yeah, and lots of points on offer, of course, this season. Remember, 100 points in the 1-hour races for a victory, but 150 here tonight. So the winner of this one will start the season very strongly indeed. 150, 135, 120 points. The top 3 scoring all the way down to 20th. So 3 nice little points. So the two sets of drivers that we can see at the moment, top 20 in each class, set to score points on their first outing of the season, but no one battling for more at the minute than these two. The two McLarens leading the race, Danny Phillips and Chris Jennings, scrapping over 150 points. Take it or leave it, gents. Still got an hour to go, but they're getting closer and closer, Dara, and maybe Jennings is just biding his time because he's not sitting back. He was half a second clear not so long ago, and now he's putting the pressure on as well. The back marker in behind ought to be careful as well, and that's something Jennings has to think about here. If he's going to have back markers putting him under pressure, which is getting closer and closer, maybe he needs to put a car's margin between him and the other drivers who are likely to follow them through as well. That Ferrari getting very close in behind, and yeah, he's got to pick this moment here, Chris, to try and make sure that he holds off the car behind and gets himself ahead of the car in front.
Yep, got to be careful, got to be wary of the risks here. But we are into the second half hour. That time is now under an hour. And we have 59 minutes left to run. It is good as well that we have this battle for the lead when the battle for the lead in the elite class isn't much of a battle, right? 12.5 seconds it is right now between Meyer and Dyer. That is partially due to the fact that Lewis Kenyon, of course, had the issue and has had to come down pit lane. That's why that gap is so big. But Meyer, a 42.6 there. What's the time going to be for Brandon Dyer when he crosses the line? Just to give a bit of a comparison. 42.6 compared to a 43.4, so that's 0.8 that singular lap that Anders Meyer is able to pull. I mean, it's outrageous the pace that he's showing at the moment.
It is, and it's a worry for everybody involved. It's an interesting track. I think we'll soon see. You know, it's a pretty competitive and challenging start to the season, no doubt. As we said earlier, Dara, Bathurst next week, Spa and Virginia coming up next. So again, two pretty unforgiving circuits. Overall, a very challenging calendar, particularly challenging in my opinion from what we've seen in the past. And again, under pressure from this Ferrari in behind. I'm going to have to try and suss which one that is, because it could be someone who got caught out earlier in the race and who actually has a lot of pace. It's almost like we have a three-car battle for the lead here, except that Ferrari is not part of it. Jennings has to be careful, as we already said, for that Ferrari coming in behind. Almost touched him in the rear on the run down toward the loop there, towards the chicane. Yeah, I'm going to try and figure out which one of the TSRC esports drivers that is, and up the inside he goes. Dara, there you go, it was coming. He's got the pace, and he's got it past. Let's see if he challenges the race leader or not, or if he holds station.
Yep, let's see, is there a chance now for any further movement as they come up in towards the heel? Is Craig Twardock, who's just trying to get himself involved, of course, recovering from that lap 1 incident. Put him down the order. He'll definitely feel like he's faster than these two and showing that. Difficult for Danny Phillips though, because he'll almost want to let him through without causing too much fuss, but he can't do it too obviously, because Chris Jennings is right there ready to pick up the pieces and maybe make an opportunistic move as well. So it's really, really a tricky place to be. I wonder if there'll be a swap down this front straight, because Craig is looking like he's on the offensive. May go to the inside line, but there's a bit of a gap. Does he send it? No, he'll wait and bide his time.
Some good passes here. People coming in to the pit lane. There is the first set of drivers. It's Kieran Sharp and Lauren De Dapper. Then mid-pack. Sorry, not mid-pack. It was the elite driver heading in. Lauren De Dapper's in as well. And Mr. Mav Gardner also into the pit lane. So a little bit of a shuffle. First action there with 56 minutes left on the clock. And John Breitenbach being heavily chased down here by the German as he looks to go toward the inside of the chicane. Backs out, just the South African appropriately, I think. At that point, goes a little bit wide on that third curb. That's going to offset his run here. He's going to have to accept that that move is done by the elite driver. Hasn't lost anything in terms of points, just a little bit of pride. That's another car in front of him at the moment. Following through, it's Patrick Falconer in his McLaren, setting his eyes on Adam Smith ahead, but again, it's a driver out of class in the Pro Division, so no points to be gained by the McLaren here. Both of them have to be conscious, defend too hard and around the outside. Sweeps the McLaren, nicely done by Mr. Falconer.
Yep, and Mr. Falconer is going to be trying to pull away now from Woodgate as they run their way through the next couple of minutes in this opening stint. Greenhalgh battling away with the Dapper. The Dapper just about getting through that. He's up into P12 now. And moving forward, of course, he's one of the drivers towards the front that had to pit. That's why he's down the order. Top 12 all are elite drivers. Then we see Danny Phillips and Chris Jennings, who are the next two, or the first two pro drivers. Ollie Pimley in P3, 3 seconds away. Gained 4/10 on Danny Phillips that time by. So he's starting to try and turn the screw a bit, but they're all getting towards what the half race distance in the 90-minute race. Are they all going to get there, or are they going to come up just short? We'll wait and see.
Yeah, it's a good picture of how the field is stacking up. Of course, remember at the start of the race, it was basically a top 20, top 21 from qualifying of all of the elite drivers, and obviously that issue right at the start of the race really threw up the order a little bit. So Danny Phillips 13th, leading the way in class ahead of Jennings at the moment. Action in the pits, but for not for too many drivers, just some drivers there a little bit aggressive. Adam Smith next to come into the pit lane. Things are settling down, Dara. Not too many gaps up and down the grid. Excuse me, at the moment. Andrew Pike leading ahead of Leon Seeley. And Jared Love there within half a second. Within a second of that leading McLaren car. Paul Cowlishaw, I believe, is that just ahead of them under blue flags. And the other battle that we have a little bit further down, there it is, the Ferrari. Lovely, lovely looking Ferrari indeed. All over the back of the one of, not many, Dara, one of 4 Corvettes that we have out there on the track, and it's another TSRC car. We're seeing those all over, and a very distinct livery indeed. Up the inside goes the Ferrari, runs a little bit wide, just the Corvette, letting him through there, it seems, although he's trying to go back around the outside. He's not going to give this one up, but I think it's going to be job done for that chrome Ferrari on the entry into the final couple of corners. The Ferrari nicely gets that one done, and Corey Price has pressure from Harvey Wheeler here, Dara, just before we're going to look towards some pit stops.
Yeah, and we will shortly be looking at those pit stops in the next 5 laps, definitely. That there is no doubt at all. Corey Price hasn't really been able to shake off Harvey Wheeler, has he, throughout this stint? I mean, they've been about 4 seconds off the back of Brandon Dyer, who himself is having not a dire race, but in fact a very competent race, just quite quiet for him in P2, but I don't think you'd mind getting almost best of the rest behind Anders Meyer, if it was quiet, would you? Harvey Wheeler looking to trumpet himself onto the podium, but if these two start to fight, then there's a chance, of course, that Brandon Dyer is going to get that little bit more comfortable in P2. The benefit for Harvey Wheeler right now, though, is, of course, he's sitting in behind a car just in front of him. It's enabling him to save a bit of fuel down the straight because he can back off slightly earlier into the corners and not have to, use too much more of the oil. What do I know? They're both going to the pit at the same time, so it's not going to make too much of a difference. Simnor's coming in as well, but importantly, this is only 38 minutes into the race. So I doubt they're going to be able to do the rest of the race on this single stop.
No, it's a very good point. A long way to go. Yeah, let's see how far they go. Lots of drivers in. Wheeler, Price, Simnor, Jones, Dennis, Love, and even Jennings is in. Danny Phillips stays out, heads into the top 7 overall. Chris Jennings in the pit lane. Then Simon Clifton is the next one out, just as he takes the opening corner then. So Clifton inherits second place at the moment. Let's see what happens in a short while. And yeah, Dara, about half the field in and back out already. Leaders in the elite class stay where they are, and everyone in the pit lane aside from the top 8 out there on the track.
Yeah, which means that I think we're not going to see very many, if any, get to the end of this race on one stop. They've still got another at least 3 laps to go if they're going to make it, because they're lapping in about 100 seconds. So 3 laps should be just about 5 minutes, just over that. So I mean, with 50 minutes to go, we're looking at still 30 laps in this race. So still ample time for storylines to develop and things to change here at the Glen. But one thing that I don't think is going to change too much is the leader, at least the net leader in the elite class. Anders Meyer comes in now, 40 minutes in. Didn't I say 40 minutes, Joe? That's about how long they were doing last season. It's about how long they can do this season. And I think good to see that we're going to get some splashes and dashes. It means that there's still some drama to come for the end of the race. Very close little move there. Lawrence Delapper getting around the outside of that Simfring car. That could have gone very wrong indeed.
Yeah, Lawrence has been in good form tonight. Seems to be placing that McLaren very well indeed. It's been good to see him out there once again. And now everyone's in, Dara, apart from Sven and his McLaren. He is going the distance on those tyres and on that tank, so he stands a chance. Let's see how long he stays out. He could be on his in-lap right now, unless he's done something very well. He could push it a little bit further, which takes him ever so closer toward that one stop. Let's see if he can pull it off. He'll have to stay out a good few laps more to make that happen. So if this is his in-lap, then it probably won't pay very many dividends. Big changes all around at the moment as people are exiting the pit lane, heading down toward turn 1. Let's hope no one gets caught out on the run. There's 2 cars coming out there side by side on the exit of the pit lane. It's the Altitude 3M car of Brandon Dyer, and he's done well to mitigate that pressure from the BMW in behind. It's a 3-way battle here for what will be a higher position come the net pit stops, I believe, but it's a dicey one coming out there on high fuel and cold tyres, if they've changed tyres, that is, Dara. Maybe not many of them did actually, but it's a good battle to get straight back into this race.
Yeah, very much so. And we are still in, still in the first half of it. It's such a long race that there is still so much to go. So we're not quite into that final stage of where we would be in a 1 hour race. We'll be through the pit stop phase, and there's only about 20 minutes to go, and we have quite a clear. Clear, what was I'm looking for? Clear, almost field that we're going to run to the end of the race with, and you know, drivers know who they're racing. The gaps are pretty set, so I'll be interested here to see how this changes. However, 48 minutes to go. I think if you're on the back foot now, you're going to have to start putting your foot down that little bit more. If you're on the front foot, and you're almost thinking that you're going to have to pit again, as they almost all certainly will, then I think the case starts to be, oh, how can I save a little bit more fuel whilst not losing too much time? Because I think the longer you can stay out in this second stint, of course, the shorter any potential pit stop will be, which is going to be oh so crucial. And Sven Baber, Niels Wever and Craig Corish have come into the pit lane all together from the elite class, and they've run nearly halfway. So when they come in, if they come in for a second time, it will not be a long stop at all.
Just a quick mention to Thiago Reiser, another one who was missed off the list, so apologies for that, Thiago. Thankfully, not thankfully for him, but hasn't been inside the top 20 an awful lot in this race. He's in there now in 19th, but he was chopped off the timing tower as well, so apologies for that one. But you were totally right. You were saying before, Dara, those guys who are just coming in now will serve the good benefit later on of a very short stop if they've been able to make it work. Then at the moment it's Ben Woodgate who leads, but where is Anders Meyer then? Just in behind him, and they've all taken their stops, I believe that. Yeah, okay, there, two lead cars there. Kieran Sharps, this is the battle that we picked up earlier on the exit of the pit lane. Nothing to report down there in the Pro Class. Danny Phillips has a huge buffer of cars around him at the moment over Lawrence Sedapa. Let's give it a couple of laps, see how it settles down. The lead McLaren got himself done and out. He's back in a comfortable position.
Yep, he is. And it's kind of what you want, isn't it? Just to get through that phase without too much of a hitch, and then something that you can build from. So that is, of course, positive. Going into the second half of the race, Kieran Sharp is right behind Joris and Brandon Lowe as they run across the start-finish line. Is there a move from Joris in that BMW? They thought about it for a minute, but not in the end. Brandon and I will just about stay ahead, all running at 43.9s for the time being. This stage, I am interested to see if anybody makes a move here, because this feels like a crucial little train for the top-end positions by the end of the race. Can anybody steal a little bit of a march at this point, get the advantage, maybe pull away a touch? Outside line for Joris Peters is not necessarily where he'd want to be, and it's not where he's going to be making a move because he has to stay behind for now.
Yeah, great little battles going on between these three drivers. Hopefully this will continue for a little while then, as we continue on around. And I'm curious, Sarah, what's happened here with Anders Meyer, because everyone's taken the pit stop. I'm trying to figure out. It was a very short one. I think Ben Woodgate has taken a short stop a little bit earlier in the race, I think. So he will be on for a two-stop, is what I have in my mind. But Anders will be not loving the track action that he's seeing at the moment, being mostly on his own for the majority of that race, just having to pick through some back markers, and all of a sudden he finds himself with some competition around him. Then 45 minutes to go, halfway through this one. Anders gets himself up as Mr. Woodgate comes into the pit lane a little bit later then, not that late, a little bit later than everybody else, and it's 4 seconds to the good behind Harvey Wheeler at the front of the field.
It is, and we'll see if Anders can get through here as well, and put himself back at the front of the field immediately as they run up towards the bus stop chicane. You've got to brighten back in a way that's not going to help. They're 3 wide as they fan out down this straight inside line for Anders Meyer. Surely Harvey Wheeler lets this one go, and he does. weren't going to fight that one around the outside. And Meyer back into the lead of the race with 43.5 minutes to go, Joe.
Yeah, there you go. That was that's where we had it. Then I'm looking at the pit stop time. It was because it was a 20-second. It was a 1 minute 20 pit lane time, and he lost 20 seconds to the leader in his pit stop over Mr. Harvey Wheeler. So big differential there in the stationary time, and of course then in the total pit lane time, which I guess is where all that time has gone. Trying to come up with the explanation for that one, Dara, but to be honest, I'm not that fresh with the old terminology at the moment, so it's struggling to come to me. But yeah, he's back in position, of course, but I wonder what's going on at the pit stop to create such a big difference between the two of them.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? At this stage of proceedings, that you've found that gap, and yeah, a little bit unclear as to how that's turned out. But it's tricky, isn't it, when they're so far apart on the circuit for quite some time, to kind of keep an eye on both at exactly the same time. But now Anders Meyer with the 1 second advantage over Harvey Wheeler. It's not a large margin by any stretch of the imagination, but you'd expect that to grow. 1.4 seconds faster last time by was Anders than Harvey, so looking pretty good. There is some traffic in the way for the driver in P2, or there was, but not anymore. And Anders is just, I think he's out of shot now, isn't he? Where is he? Where is he? Still not there. He's that far away, and he's built that gap up that quickly, which is mightily impressive.
Yeah, there wasn't really any use for Harvey to defend the pace that Mr. Meyer has shown all evening. Suggests that he will have been the clear race winner if it's from no fault of his own, of course. So Harvey, I think, wise to just let him through, run his own race, not cost himself any more time than needed. Could have left him a little message, made it slightly difficult, and then let him go on by, but I think he managed that very well, and he'll look to maintain what he has. P2 at the start of the season in such a long race is a very competitive way to start the season. Then down in P18, the battle for P17 between these two McLarens. Ben Woodgate looking to make a pass. He's going to have the inside line on Patrick Falconer as they run down toward the chicane. Then I think the outside McLaren is going to have to let this one go as Woodgate gets up and through before the braking zone. Nice clean move for him coming out the first sector.
Yeah, good in the end, and Woodgate doing what he needs to do to keep that ball rolling, really, as we run our way through this race. And he's showed that he's got the pace, he's got the racecraft as well to put it together, so good work from Ben. Patrick's now going to have to try and keep up, maybe use a bit of a toe if he can, unless Ben can start to run away just a little bit. 2 seconds now, the gap between Meyer and Wheeler. 9 more tenths was gained on that lap. You've got the close battle between Dyer, Peters and Sharp still towards the front end of the order, but over in the pro class, really isn't much to speak about in terms of tight battles. You've got Ollie Pimley right behind Simon Clifton, only about a quarter of a second away, but that's basically it, isn't it? You've got big gaps between Phillipson to Dapper, between Jennings and Breitenbach, even between Pimley himself and Mav Gardner. So, yeah, interesting to see, I think, how you've got those differences. There's Ollie Pimley in that yellow and black X-Bell car. Up towards turn 1 he goes once again. Is he close enough to Simon to make a move? I don't really think he is. You've got to be nearly just about a tenth behind onto that start-finish straight to have a go, because the team almost just is not powerful enough.
Yeah, we've only seen a couple of guys trying to make that move, and it hasn't paid off. So many of them, and it didn't pay off for Ollie, just not quite close enough on that occasion. He'll be happy where he is. He'll be even happier with a top 5 start. It's only 1 place gain for him in class overall, but he's maintained a consistent performance so far throughout qualifying into the first half of this race, and he's looking to improve on his grid position, and he will do that twofold if he can get himself past Mr. Clifton. But from that point, however, the gap up toward the top 4 is 2 seconds clear of John Breitenbach. Then after him it's a big margin to get himself onto Jennings, to Dapper and Phillips. Still thinking about it is the McLaren, not letting this one slide, and we're starting to get a little bit closer to the business end of this race. Not quite yet. Give it another 15 minutes and we might see some drivers start to just change up the strategy a little bit. For example, in a few laps time, that McLaren might have tried it at the inside there, thought better of it on this occasion, stays behind Mr. Clifton at the moment. Not too much going on. Again, Dara, the last laps between the two leaders, 8 tenths, like you said earlier, 8 tenths still on the last lap as well. So the margin continues to grow between the two drivers who are having their fun out there, lapping a lot of the field up to this point. And I was going to point out earlier, Dara, the winners in the Teams Championship at the moment, the DWC Racing drivers, currently in 3rd and 4th, Simnor and Jones doing very well for their points at the moment. Of course, remember, teams of 4 throughout our 4 divisions, Elite and Pro here in Split A, Premier and Club down in Split B, and drivers can be in any class, in any split. 4 of them can register, and then the 2 highest scoring pair on the night is what is total towards the team's championship scoring. So at the moment, it's points good enough for 3rd and 4th for the 2 DCW drivers, which is pretty good standings to take into Bathurst, because as we said earlier, Dara, anything can happen around that one. There's no guarantees, which there isn't here, but that one's a bit of a different beast. So points on the board in both championships in this round will definitely be a big help and a big favour for the circuits that the drivers have to come up against very, very shortly.
It is an imposing calendar, isn't it? In terms of the circuits that we're looking at going to. A little trap at it now. We've got the time. We have, of course, after Watkins Glen this week, Bathurst next week, which is scary because of the mountain. You've got Spa, which is scary because of Eau Rouge. You've got Virginia, which is just scary all the way around. Yeah, it's just scary. It's the only way to describe it. Road America, it's all right. You've got the carousel, but that's okay. Hockenheim, that's all right. Le Mans, I think just the stage of it is a little bit daunting. Same really for Daytona, not a particularly difficult circuit, but you can find mistakes creeping in at a circuit like Daytona, particularly when it's quote-unquote out of season. It's not January. We're racing it in August, but it's one where you can get slight errors. The Rebel Ring's going to be loads of fun. I'm really looking forward to that race. I think this kind of racing suits the Rebel Ring really well. And then we go to Suzuka, which is scary for the S's and 130R. So it is quite a daunting calendar, I think. It's got all of the big hitters in GT3 racing on it. And we're really going to find a worthy champion by the end. And, I mean, Watkins Glen almost feels slightly tame on that calendar, which feels crazy because it shouldn't feel tame on any calendar, should it?
I know, it's funny you say. When I was looking at this earlier today, I did think exactly the same, and I even sort of stumbled myself when I got to Le Mans and thought, well, it's a bit of a reprieve from, as you said, the difficulty and the scariness of those opening circuits. But even so, you know, high speed, still plenty of corners where you can lose the car, and it's not something that's easy to stay focused on either. And of course, a 90-minute round, and I thought the same about Daytona. In the night, yes, a more of a simple circuit, still with its challenges, of course, but a night race for 1 hour throws in some complexity, Dara. And also, let's not forget that on the calendar for Bathurst next week, it's down as mixed weather conditions. So to make matters worse, not only is there a scary mountain, it could be a wet scary mountain.
Yeah, I remember, I think it was a couple of years ago now. I think iRacing had just added in rain to the service, so I think it was a couple of years ago now. We had a Bathurst 12-hour. It may even be 24 as Ollie Pimley gets through on Simon Clifton on the up and under through the final corner. Good move, opportunistic there from him. He's now into the top 3 as Dapper and Brayton back pit. But what I was trying to say was we had that 12-hour or 24-hour race. I can't exactly remember how long it was. And it was littered, absolutely littered with bouts of rain. Went wet to dry to wet to dry. And you know, I was on the broadcast for Split 1, which had the best sim racers on the service on it, and they couldn't hack it. They were struggling, they were sliding. Yes, rain was new to iRacing, but it was so tricky to manage. And I think if we're going to have mixed conditions next week, and drivers almost have to then judge the mountain for themselves and try and find the grip lap after lap when it could be coming to you or going away from you, it's going to be so tricky. And a real curveball at the start of the championship that could you know, mix up the order that we're seeing tonight just a little bit, because you know, those mistakes can creep in, and it just takes one little spin at the top of the mountain at Bathurst and your race is absolutely finished.
Yeah, and I think we'll see what comes of that opening incident that we saw at the start of this race. It was a big one. I'm sure the stewards will dive into it in good depth. But the drivers involved there should, well, really need to learn their lesson. I know it's not an easy thing to avoid, but somewhere at some point there'll have been someone a little bit too eager, just either happy on the brakes or happy on the throttle and made their mistake. And you have to learn from this one around here, because it's even less forgiving at the mountain section, in the mountain section, should I say, around there, and even less opportunity to avoid. It only takes 2, maybe 3 cars sideways around that track to block the whole thing. A bit more room here, and even so, earlier today, it nearly was fully blocked with 4, 5, maybe even 6 cars across the width of the circuit. So, big one to watch out for, lessons to be learned, and we have a 3-car battle here a little bit further down. Paul Caldershaw mixing it in with some of the elite class drivers ahead of him outside the top 20. Paul inside the top 10 in the pro class. The drivers in front of him, though, from 20th down to 22nd. And Harvey Wheeler back toward the front with Brandon Dyer up his inside. Makes that move stick. It's another position gained for the Altitude 3M Esports driver. The Team UKSR Ferrari will try and get right back at him. Just over half an hour to go, nearly 2/3 of the way through. Duke and the Dapper swapping places on the run down toward the first chicane. The McLaren on the outside has the speed. The McLaren on the inside has to bail out, and someone has gone off, I think, Dara, at the exit. There it is, there, the Ferrari coming back onto the circuit. That's Lewis Kenyon, one of the leaders, toward the front of the elite classes, often in the barrier again in a heavy crash. And he's going to have to watch himself here, because that's exactly where drivers will exit around that right-hander. He's going to have to take it back to the pit lane. Race over for Lewis Kenyon. Shame.
Yeah, unfortunately, he had that issue, didn't he? Not long after the start, he was comfortable in P2, and then it just started going slightly wrong. And in the end, it's just kind of all come unstuck, hasn't it, for him? And that barrier can bite you. But at least we know how he's going to console himself, or what cuppa he's going to have to console himself. It's written on the side of his car, yeah. Getting out of shape through the second part, into the wall. It's not the biggest of hits, but it's enough, isn't it? And it doesn't take a lot, it just takes the wrong angle for your car to hit the barrier for your race to be basically completely run.
Yeah, that really is a big shame for him. We were singing his praises about how it was going to be a pretty comfortable evening if he didn't make any of his own mistakes. Same said about Anders as well at the front, and there is one mistake. Seemed quite slow. The snap wasn't too aggressive, but it was too much for him to catch, and in the end he's gone off. And I think the secondary mistake is more just the sort of carelessness and the disbelief that the race is a run and the night is done. Got himself an hour in, but that's the difference, isn't it? It's an endurance round, so to speak, in some regard at least, and these drivers have to stay focused and stay with their machines for a little bit longer than what they have been used to, and the focus now must come to mind. We've got that Audi looking just ahead of the back markers. He's going to have to watch himself here as Dyer and Wheeler go side by side on the exit of the first corner. That Audi will have to watch himself. Remember, doesn't have to get out the way, but he can't defend. If one of these guys puts their nose up the inside, he must let them through, and that's something that I think Mr. Brandon Dyer, the Altitude 3M driver leading this pack in his McLaren, will have to think about doing soon, because he needs to put a buffer between himself and the 3 cars in behind him.
He does. That would be most beneficial for him. For me, they're getting tight on it. All into the carousel side by side. A little bit of an inside look there from Harvey Wheeler to try and keep tabs with Brandon Dyer. Will he get through? Yes, he does. Good move in the end. But then Brandon Dyer goes down the inside. And he's, ironically, got that Pokemon car, hasn't he? And put himself a little bit further away from Harvey Wheeler once again. So Harvey having to do all the heavy lifting to try and keep tabs with Brandon Dyer, because Brandon Dyer just keeps pulling that little bit away and keeping himself afloat in this battle, and giving him the breathing room that he really, really needs as we enter the final 30 minutes here at Watkins Glen. I think it's a really good position for Brandon Dyer to be in. He's not far behind the likes of Jones and Simnor. He's got that target in front of him. And now that he's got the buffer behind in terms of, in the shape of the pro driver, it means that he now has the chance to be a little bit more aggressive the next lap or two with his lines. He doesn't really have to worry because he shouldn't really get challenged from behind. Look at the run for Harvey Wheeler through the penultimate corner. Not going to make him move into the final one, but he's going to want to get a move on soon.
There we go, the Audi stepping out the way, letting him by. It's very difficult in the cockpit in those moments where you can see your competitor driving on up the road and you've got blue flags to deal with. Once he's past them, you wish you could follow him straight on through and keep the battle, keep the high pressure in the battle, but it hasn't worked out this time for Mr. Wheeler. Just inside 1 second, he was a lot closer than that a couple of laps ago, so he'll have to dust himself down, keep pushing in the final half an hour. Still lots of time for either of these drivers to make mistakes or find more time. Either one will happen, I'm sure, to at least one of these drivers as they come bouncing over the curbs aggressively by the Ferrari, slightly out of shape, but not enough for him to come anywhere near losing the car. Still in good control, and he's put a good gap ahead of that Audi in behind. He can focus now, all eyes forward. Doesn't have to worry about the other guys coming through. Joris Peters Weem ahead, behind these guys as well. And then the Pro Class leader, 15 seconds now over Ollie Pimley, and we have the interval times as well, and he's 20 seconds ahead, 19.5 clear there. Let's take a look at the gap in class then. There you go, Darrell. Look at that, 35, 40 seconds clear of the top four there. Great drive thus far by Danny Phillips. Still, top four McLarens leading the way in the Pro Class.
And it's nice to see that you've got those drivers, as we kind of touched on earlier, that have been around for a while, kind of showing what they can do in that Pro Class early on. Paul Kalish was another driver that's been around for quite some time. He's just ahead of Sam Hockley. They run their way through 2 and 3 right now. And he's racing for Suma. I mean, that's a name that's been here forever, Joe, isn't it? Suma.
It has.
Obviously, Suma GP2. Streets will never forget.
No, they won't.
If there can be Prime Barclays, there can be Prime ESR.
Prime Suma. That was
Prime Suma.
Yeah, I wonder who would make it into the Prime ESR category. Maybe a top 5. I'm sure I could think of a few names, but yeah, Suma definitely one of them. He's doing okay in his Porsche at the moment, inside the top 8 in class. Good start. 18 places, Dara. In fact, that's got to be... Quick scan, yes, that is. That is the biggest number of positions gained in class as well, by the way. 18 positions gained in class, 24 overall. Paul definitely the biggest winner. Closely followed actually by this man, Adam Smith, 27 gained overall instead of 24, but only 17 in class instead of 18. So doing very well. He's in a better position though, isn't he? He's in 5th. So he and Paul have had super races, and they'll be hoping that continues. As we've said, plenty of time left for things to change, but absolutely right, Dara. Suma and Mr. Callister, of course, season 1 entry all the way back, season 13 now. It's almost hard to believe, especially when I last left you at season 10. It feels like I've missed an awful lot of racing, and yet one thing is for sure, that Mr. Callister will be out there on track as he always has been. And sadly, Dara, for my team, this is the first time, play the small violin, this is the first time that we haven't entered GT3. We've been ever present up until this point. But sadly, no entries for us this time around. But yeah, that's just one thing. That's one note for Callister. He's still there, along with many others.
Yeah, no offence intended, but goodness me, was it boring last year when your team just kept winning everything. Win, second, win and second and third, podium sweep, win, pole, everything was going Glass-Tech's way. And now that you've come back, they've run away.
Yeah, I know.
I'm not saying that correlation always means causation, but I'm just putting it out there.
Well, it wouldn't have been fair, Dara, for me to have to commentate over such success, obviously.
Obviously. Not that you have before or anything.
No, I mean, there's been levels of success, but my particular favourite was the 1, 2, 3, 4, I think it was, right at the end of the season.
Yeah.
Now, I must admit, I was, for many reasons, disconnected from many worlds at home. I wasn't really paying an awful lot of attention to many things. I was living where I was and in where I was, and so I kind of let the boys to it for the most part. Checked in every couple of weeks, of course, just to see what was going on at home and what was going on in the racing world. But I only caught that 1, 2, 3, 4 a few days after it happened. Obviously, congratulated the boys on the championship, but I didn't realise that they did it. In such style. So fair play to all of them. But I genuinely mean it. If they were gonna, had a similar performance this season, it would have been way too much for me to comment on. So it's probably good that we can just talk about the rest of our fabulous teams that line the SRI grids.
Yeah, and there's so many of them. And some good liveries. Look at that one. Adam Smith looks delightful. And then you've got, yeah,
Ooh.
I mean,
very good.
It's kind of half and half, isn't it? That's lovely. Good work there on the Mustang. Andy Jones is being pressured by Brandon Dyer. You can't miss Andy Jones, that's for sure. They'll come up in towards the bus stop, and Brandon Dyer's already got through. Yeah, must have been a bit of a lift there from Andy, because very rarely have we seen that much overspeed create a move before the braking zone into the bus stop chicane. So good work in the end from Brandon. And now he's got Richard Simnor just there to try and chase after. 23 minutes to go. I feel like this time's going to evaporate very quickly, but I think they've got to start thinking about, for the majority of the field, that second pit stop.
And there it is. Speaking of which, there's Danny Phillips on the exit, coming out of his second stop. 22 seconds to go. He's right on the back of Simon Clifton here, who's got some thinking to do with the race leader in behind him. Of course, these guys will come in again as well, so no pressure for Mr. Phillips at the moment. Has to keep it clean though, and with battling people so high up his class, the pace could be similar. Not going to be an easy job to dispatch Mr. Clifton if he even chooses to do so. He might just conserve what he's got in the tank and sit in his slipstream for a few laps. Hope that he comes in, doesn't get in his way. Only time will tell on what his strategy will be there, but he has such a nice buffer before the pit stop. He's got wide margins to work with, so he knows that he can afford to lose a little bit of time if it means the safety of his race, and the safety, of course, in the final 20 minutes and 21 to go. Vast majority of this race has been said and done. We have a small fraction of it left to go. Wesley Van Ren up 10 places in class, 19 overall into the top 6. Very good start for his team as well. And speaking of the team's championship, it's got better for the DCW Racing team. It was 3rd and 4th, now it's 2nd and 4th for the two of them at the front of the elite class.
Yep, going along nicely as well. And time really sticking around. 20 minutes means we've got, 12 laps left. It's not the longest time. No, that's a slight understatement. Oh no, it's not actually. We do have 12 laps left. Goodness me. So yeah, laps are going to count down quite quickly now. Obviously, Van Rent is going to look to try and get to Adam Smith as quickly as possible. Adam, look, just going to break the slipstream just a little bit. Just feigning to the inside. He's not going to have to defend, obviously. Wesley too far back. But if anything, if I'm Wesley Van Ren, I like seeing that. Because Wesley knows he's not pressuring Adam into that corner. But Adam is almost telling him that he's thinking about him. He's aware of him. He's almost trying to outsmart him when he doesn't really need to. So if I'm Wesley, that's going to give me a bit of a boost, because all of a sudden you know that you're in the driver's head. You can maybe play a couple more games because you've got more of it in than you think you do. And that might be what we start to see in the next lap or two. He closes up into the bus stop, little tiny look to the inside, maybe just to get in the mirrors, but I mean absolutely nothing substantial. They'll bounce their way through the bus stop still in the same order.
Yeah, good lines through here by Wesley, and of course this is all he has to fight for. Has to be conscious of the Dapper in behind, just over 2 seconds the margin to the McLaren in behind him, but this is the best that he can hope for as he just slowly gets back on the throttle, not once but twice, as they head up toward the heel now, into the toe, to turn number 7, back early on the power, but this is all that Van Ren can hope for, a spot inside the top 5. Anything else above that will be a stretch too far, so he can pick his moments, which it looks like he's doing, as he said, Dara, in the head of the driver in front, filling the mirrors, putting the pressure on. Maybe that Mustang in the ahead will make his own mistake. That's often an approach by some of these drivers. Put the pressure on for so long and make the driver check the rear mirror so often that they end up making slight mistake, and it makes your life even easier. A good exit for Van Ren here, though, in that BMW with a straight line speed could offer him a good opportunity down into turn 1. I don't think it's going to be enough. He could still think about it if he's eager, but I think, yeah, there you go. Not quite close enough to the back of that Mustang to make it happen. This one will hopefully continue for a while. And here's Brandon Dyer. Someone's off on the side of the road there. I think that is... not sure who that is actually, but it's no one at the front of the order. Someone down toward the back of the field, off to the right-hand side of the circuit. I was going to say here, Dara, we have a lovely battle shaping up for that spot on the podium. P2 up for grabs. Anders Myers picked up that 17-second gap once again. However, Brandon Dyer not safe. 2 cars within 2 seconds here, and he's got 17 minutes to hold on to the position that he's inherited, of course, after Lewis Kenyon made that mistake a little bit earlier on.
Yep, and I mean, it's a shame for Lewis to have suffered that earlier on, but it's given the chance to the others to try and put themselves that little bit further up the order tonight. Simnor and Jones and Wheeler, part of that group that have been able to benefit. Van Ren still behind Adam Smith. He's not made that move. Phillips behind Clifton. Ollie Pimley, I think quietly has had a fantastic race tonight. Second place for the time being. He set the fastest lap a couple of times earlier on. Made a couple of effective moves when he needed to, and he's worked his way up the order. He's now P2. We'll see where he finishes once any final pit stops have to be taken are taken. But yeah, really impressive display from Ollie. We'll keep an eye on him going in towards next week when we do return in 7 days' time. Wesley Van Ren has come into the pit lane. Of course, he was just behind Adam Smith, so I wonder if this could be a bit of an undercut. But any undercut from here would just mean you have to put a little bit more fuel in the car. So we'll have to see how it pans out.
Yeah, I was going to say on Mr. Ollie Pimley as well. Qualified in P7, up to second with a nice margin as well. 6.5 seconds down to third. Nowhere near Jennings at the lead of the race, but of course things still to change because I believe we're still relying on Danny Phillips there, who's already made his second stop. He'll be hoping that Jennings hasn't managed to pull out some sort of masterclass. I'm sure he won't have. We'll see him in the pits shortly, I'd imagine. But at the moment, fourth for that McLaren. Still 1, 2, 3, 4 McLaren at the top of the pro class. But yes, good shout out to Ollie. Good rise through the order for him. And like I said before, other big gainers in class, Sinmore and Jones, themselves up 14 and 11 places in class to secure the team's points. That will put them in fine stead. Not sure what's happening over on B-Split, of course, but unless teams share the points with those two, could be a very good look at the standings when those get released in a couple of weeks' time. Then 2 drivers on each other here, 2 McLarens outside of each other's classes. One of them is Ollie Pimley in behind. He's got 2 elite drivers, one in front, one behind, so ought to let those guys through if they feel like they've got the pace.
Yep, but there's not too much more time to play games, is there, in this one? As we see Ben Woodgate just about hold off from the likes of Kieran Sharp in that Lamborghini. Not many of them, bit of a dying breed. We've not Yannis Ulbay, he loves a Lamborghini. He's not here to partake in one, but either way, we've still got Kieran Sharp flying the flag for the Lamborghini. Richard Simnor catching Brandon Dyer a little bit. Keep an eye on him. 7 tenths or so is that gap. Just keep an eye on that at the timing tower. And then you've got, of course, Clifton and Phillips for a podium spot in the pro class. I think that's where a lot of the action is going to be for the big points in the closing stages here at Watkins Glen. You said Road America there. It's definitely not Road America. This track does feel very much Road America adjacent, though, doesn't it?
It does.
It's not quite Road America, but it kind of has the same characteristics of it. If not the same layout, of course. Bit of a battle between Van Ren, Breitenbach and Smith. 9th, 10th, 11th in pro class. They're all quite close together. I think Wesley Van Ren's just got through, actually. And I've said that. They've all split up. But, of course, in all of that, Van Ren pit earlier than Adam Smith and has come out in front, so he's got the advantage, and that'll be key. He's got Matt Gardner on the back of Bobby Moss, and all of a sudden, as these kind of the pit stops kind of mesh together in these closing stages, we're seeing some moves being made.
Yeah, it's nice to see a little bit of action toward the end of the race, of course. Getting toward that stage now where drivers can be a little bit more free. Potentially someone might get a little bit too eager, but you tend to think if you've had a bit of a, if you've been chasing the race, you think you've got nothing to lose. You decide to send it up the inside a little bit, and for those who've gained a lot, if they get a little bit greedy, they might fancy an extra place or two. It's all about survival still at this point, and you've got to watch out for the temperatures. A lot of these guys will have either made the final stop or will be preparing to, and if you've got to make the tyres last the rest of this race, got to be careful just to manage that, not push the machines too hard, because they've done so well up to this point. It would be a shame if they lost it now. Then leaders coming into the pit lane now for the final time. This is going to change up the order, Dara, quite a bit. A little bit of time, see how it pans out. Danny Phillips will be curious to see what happens around the drivers with him. Chris Jennings is a little bit further up the road. He's coming toward the end of the lap now. Let's see if he goes in or if he stays out.
Yeah, the dramatic moment of pit stop dilemma. He comes in, Chris Jennings, into the box. 12.5 minutes to go. Simnor, Jones, they're coming out of the pit lane as Corey Price comes in. And still we wait the likes of Myra and Dyer. Why do they all end in Myra, Dyer, Wheeler, all at the front of the field. All the but we're pretty sure we know who's going to win, so there's no umming and ahhing over that. 12 minutes left to run. Phillips is right behind Simon Clifton as they then get past Chris Jennings in the pit lane. And Ollie Pimley takes over the baton to lead this race. And it's still difficult to say exactly who's where because of how these pit stops are going to shake out. Because of the fact that they're all differing in terms of the length of them. Most of the first stops were generally the same length as everyone took a full fuel tank, but that then has the effect here in at the end of the second stint that you get that offset, which is kind of making it a little bit more difficult to work out.
Well, Ollie has to be careful at the moment, riding on board with Kieran Sharp, the TSRC Sports Lamborghini, though. He's got Ollie ahead of him. He's got Ben Woodgate, the driver, in front of this little pack here. Two elite drivers battling over spots inside the top 9. So he has to watch himself here. He's got the pace to be with these guys, no doubt about it, but if they're going to get themselves into a battle, he needs to just get himself through this final pit stop, maximise that as much as he can, see where he comes out. Simon Clifton and Danny Phillips still close to one another within a tenth of a second. Van Ren and John Breitenbach close in behind Jamie Foster. Harvey Wheeler and Jared Love come into the pit lane then. Let's see what happens ahead. For the time being, let's cut to these two ESR SRI stalwarts here between Van Ren and Breitenbach, and up the inside maybe the BMW thinks and doesn't go in on that occasion. That might allow the South African to get himself up the inside. Pimley then in the pit lane, final of our pro class drivers. Danny Phillips passes him, and Simon Clifton, Dara, I'm not sure if he has made his second stop. No, he hasn't, so he's yet to come in, which means Danny Phillips will make up quite a nice margin on the rest of the drivers in his class.
Yep, and Danny Phillips is going to be in a good spot, isn't he, with 10 minutes to go. I think interesting to see how this pans out now, with only a handful of laps, really about 7 or so left to run here. Anders is coming to the pit lane at the front of the field. Brandon Dyer is going to start catching as we see battling between Wesley Van Ren and John Breitenbach. Wesley all the way around the outside. Does he have enough grip to do it in that BMW? He's just going to be able to get a better exit. Almost a slingshot off the corner. He's going to have to do it again through this penultimate corner if he's going to have the inside line for the final, but he's done a great job to hang on. Can he get enough of a run? He's got to be careful on the outside because Jean is going to be pushed up against the wall. There's nearly contact. Jean comes down on the line a bit, but defends the position. Good racing between the two of them. And they've been left alone by the cars in front, so they can really go at it between them. Bobby Moss and Adam Smith, though, right onto the tail of the two of them as they start yet another lap.
Yeah, good move by Jean there. It was high pressure, high risk, high reward. Managed to pull it off at the final corner. Well done for Wesley as well, because it's so inviting to let the car run all the way to the barrier on the exit of the final corner. But it gave him the room that he had earned. And as you rightly said, Dara, that's brought Bobby Moss and Adam Smith right back into this one. One little slip up or one more battle between any of these 4 drivers could really change the order into the final 9 minutes. Then Simon Clifton still out. He's 1.1 seconds clear of what has been the race leader for the majority of the time, the DXT Magenta driver, Danny Phillips, in that McLaren there. So let's see what happens with Simon Clifton. Had a long opening stop, 43 seconds stationary. It was a splash and dash for most of the guys, sub 20 seconds, some of them even closer to 10 seconds in that final stop. So interesting to see what happens between Clifton and Phillips as we approach the end of this race. And this could be another one, Dara, as well. Leon Seeley yet to come into the pit lane. He's got Riley Hitchman right up behind him. Alongside him nearly goes the Ferrari. Also just made 1 stop so far this race.
Yeah, and not long left to go really to see if there's any more time for them to come down. I mean, they're going to hope to avoid it, but I think they're going to have to come down at some point. Hitchman always going to go for the inside move. Not quite just getting right in the mirror. Scared me. Probably would have scared Leon Seeley a bit. As they now come into the final corner, Seeley looking like he's diving for the pit lane, taking a tighter line. They both are. Ooh, is there a chance to get the move into the pit lane? Ooh, not quite. He tried it. Tried the opportunism, and very rarely have I ever seen +5 meters on a timing tower stay there. But there you go. Not the biggest margin at all, but they will both come down pit lane. We'll see if anybody, well, I say anybody, either one of them, I mean, can shorten the time on pit lane. But this difference here shows you how good Leon Seeley's race has been, because how much further Riley Hitchman is down the pit lane. Shows how far Leon Seeley's come through the field to be able to be in this battle. Can he get out? Can he get out? Oh, it's going to be close. I think he's got him. He has, Hitchman.
Wow, there you go.
It's only taken about half a second in the stop, but he's got the move on Leon Seeley, and he's up into P13.
Yeah, great one to capture there. Very well done by the Ferrari. Had to go a lot further down the pit lane, got himself out in time, and that little lunge on the brakes caught him all the time that he needed to get that one done in the pit lane. He'll be very pleased with that one for sure. He's got to hold on to that position now if he can. Just for another 6 minutes. Big train here, led by Jared Love. He's got Sven Beber and Riley Hitchman, the 2 drivers who just left off in behind him. Then everyone else has shaped up toward the front. 2 stops for everybody inside the top 11. The gap huge, 22.2 seconds from Anders Meyer down to Brandon Dyer, and then another pretty sizable 4-second gap down to Simnor. So not too much happening here apart from leading this train, the Lamborghini of Kieran Sharp. Plenty of drivers in with a shout at a position inside the top 6. Again, Dara, look at that. The gap's down from 6th toward 14th, obviously with Jared Love leading that second train, offering more than what can be said for the guys inside the Pro Class. It's ebbed and flowed, I think, Dara. We saw a very, very tight margin early on between Jennings and Phillips. That's panned out. Anders lost his margin for a while, but he's built that back up now. And then the Elite Class giving us the offerings at the end of this one. Just about to hit the 5-minute mark. Only a handful of laps for these drivers left to go. Let's see if anything changes inside the top 10 toward top 6 of the Elite Class.
Yeah, 4 more for these guys. It'll be 3 more for Anders when he crosses the line. In the not distant future, Wesley Van Ren with the drive-through penalty. That's not going to help him out very much at all. But you're right about the ebbing and flowing in terms of the battles, I think, particularly between the Elite and the Pro classes over the course of the evening. I've enjoyed how the 2 stops have kind of allowed the race to ebb and flow in terms of everyone's done something slightly different. It's been very different to almost have the same strategy. You'd have to almost fall together rather than planning it in advance. And in the Elite Class, it has allowed those groups to kind of appear now towards the end. We know that Pike is fighting with Price and Woodgate for 7th, but that the likes of Wheeler are quite comfortable inside the top 5. Price threw on Woodgate on the inside there, just up in front. Good move in the end, inside line, and he'll get that one done before he gets into the toe. And then in the Pro Class, we've seen those gaps widen a bit. Ollie Pimley's going to end up P3. But the likes of John Breitenbach have been up and down. It was contact with Pike. That was avoidable, but Woodgate, where's he going to be in the middle of the road? That's not a good place to be. They're all going to try and avoid. Oh, there's huge contact. That's a massive hit. Someone clearly, with no disrespect, clearly not paying attention to the road in front of them.
Yeah, I think that was blue flagged potentially. Let's go back and see what happened initially between the two drivers. It's a wobble on the throttle, and he's just oversteered there on the exit, picked up too much throttle. And then let's see, he's stationary, cars get by him. Oh, and it's two of them. I've just gone slap bang into the side of Woodgate's car there, a nasty one. And I think, Dara, the drivers were probably a little bit too close to the car in front, which they're allowed to do. Obviously, yellow flags were probably waving, and as the cars peel left and right to avoid the stationary vehicle in front, the guys right behind have no time to react. And in the end, two of them have gone straight into the side of that one.
Yeah, but I think this is where the lines between sim racing and real racing would are quite clear, because if you were in real racing, you see a yellow flag up in front going over a blind crest, you'd probably slow down a lot more than you did there, because obviously there's no physical risk of harm, right? So they're not going to be as worried. It ruins their race, yeah, but I think there'd be a trip to the hospital or two if that actually happened. So yeah, I think that's where you see the lines blur slightly. Well, actually, sorry, not blur, the opposite. Really quite solidify themselves. 2.5 minutes to go. Myers comes around the the final corner to start the penultimate lap, is what I was going to say. No white flag yet. Barney's not quite waving that white flag for now, but with a 24-second lead, he can take this a little bit easier, can't he?
Yeah, he absolutely can. A lovely spec out there on that Ferrari. Big fan as well. The gold tints, the black, the white. I like that one a lot. Hopefully comes and gives us a word after this stellar performance tonight. Not just a stellar race, he dominated qualifying by a huge margin to set the tone for the season, and it looks as though the tone is being set out there at the front in race trim as well. 2 laps to go for the man who took pole position and held on to the lead of the race for its entirety then, doing so well at the moment. The 1:09 entry gaps up and down the field completely falling away. Just these two at the moment. Jared Love and his Ferrari under pressure from that McLaren in behind from the German NJB Performance. That's right on board with them over the hill as they head toward the chicane for the second last time in this race. Is the 198 going to go for it at some point? It would be nicely to get himself inside the top 10. He'd probably feel a little bit more satisfied coming off so early, which allows him really to pick his braking point. The driver in front has to be careful not to brake too early to catch out the car in front, so an advantage in some regard there to the car behind. He can just nicely coax the car through the chicane and look for the right entry, and he is getting closer under braking. On the power though, not so much. The Ferrari seems superior at the moment, but it's every single time he launches himself into one of these braking zones, he really does bring that margin down. One good exit for this McLaren. Could see him launch an attack here, but he hasn't got long left to do it.
No, not at all. Time we're about to hit 0, but we will have another lap or so. A couple of these guys will have another 2 laps, really, after the timer hit 0 for them. White flag is flying. Don't know where they are in comparison to Anders, who should be about halfway around the lap now, with 12 seconds on the clock as it ticks all the way down to 0. But this is the last real chance for these guys to make these moves work. Dominic, one of the only drivers in the Aston Martin, flying the flag for that car tonight, looking to try and put himself back up into 18th against Pillman. They are too far back from anyone else to make a challenge, but this is their race.
It is. Let's see. It's not going to happen on this occasion for the Quatermass driver. I want to just point out Danny Phillips as well. 51 laps raced by everybody here tonight. 52 by the time we cross the line to finish, and that's a hell of a stint by a lot of these drivers. Anything nicely rounded over 50 is a really, really strong performance from the guys who managed to finish the race unscathed. Let's hope that continues, because these two so close, and he's held on to that position. Has the Ferrari. This is Jared Love and Sven Weber from earlier on, of course, and he managed to get himself alongside, but stuck on the outside with the German. And Dara, is that a drive-through or just a slowdown that Sven has picked up there? It could be a drive-through penalty if my memory serves me correctly.
Yeah, it's a drive through for Sven, so that's really unfortunate. I think luckily though, it's only going to drop him 2 spots. But whilst all that's going on, it's been a masterful
Apologies.
display from that man, Joe.
It has, yeah. He crosses the line. I mean, what can we say about that opening? It was unexpected for me coming into this one a little bit blind, but Anders Meyer has absolutely smashed it out the park tonight. 26.5-second gap ahead of his nearest rival then in his Ferrari. Smashed qualifying, and he smashed the race then, so that is maximum points for him and his team to start off under this one. Brandon Dyer and Richard Simnor will round out the podium places inside the elite class. And heading around the penultimate corner now, Dara, is Mr. Danny Phillips. Great race and a great night for him to start his championship.
Yep, really good evening and a well-deserved victory as well. He's driven impeccably well, and no one's been able to touch him in that pro class.
No, he hasn't. Chris Jennings was the closest man to that, but finishing the race a good chunk over 10 seconds behind. We'll see what the final time is when Jennings crosses the line, but it was a good effort from him. Top 5 McLaren in the end inside the pro class then. 14 seconds the difference between P1 and P2. Shout out to Ollie Pimley as well, who got himself up from, I think it was 7th on the grid, up to 3rd, so massive positions gained for him, capitalising from the earlier chaos a little bit further on. Patrick Falconer and Simon Clifton cross the line. Simon finishing out there in P5. Pretty much everybody else in behind them resetting back into the pit lane already to finish their race. Then Sven in the end, Dara, looks like he dropped down a good few places, finished in 12th in the end after serving that one.
Yeah, he did. And it was only a couple of spots that he dropped, so in the end, not too bad for him. But I'm sure he'll be slightly disappointed to lose up points. But in the end, it could have been a lot worse. If you were in the front of one of those trains, it could have been 7 or 8 spots lost. So yeah, a manageable gap for him, really.
Absolutely. Then, so let's have a run through of the standings. First, as always, with the elite class then. Whoa, you don't need glasses to see this one. So, coming up first, Anders Meyer wins in his Ferrari. As we've said already, it was a dominant display by him, and he's done very well for RAA Sim Sports. Brandon Dyer will take 2nd place on the podium for Altitude 3M Esports ahead of Richard Simnor. Richard Simnor there, the British Corvette, doing well in the Corvette there to get that onto the elite class podium. Following on from him then in P4, Andy Jones and Harvey Wheeler are the top 5. It's Kieran Sharp, Corey Price and Andrew Pike ahead of Joris Peters and Jared Love inside the top 10. Leon Seeley, Nils Weaver, Peter Duke, Riley Hitchman, disappointing for him. He performed well in his Ferrari for a large portion of that race. In the end, he will have to settle for 14th. Patrick Falconer ahead of Sven Beber and Craig Corish. Daniel Pillman ahead of Dominic Delicate and Milton Tomlinson Dennis in the Ford for Samantha Tan Racing, finishing 1 lap down.
And of course, we move over to the pro standings. In the end, it was Danny Phillips who was your race winner ahead of Chris Jennings and Ollie Pimley on the podium with a good display through the field. Lawrence Adapper and Simon Clifton, the only two other drivers officially on the lead lap, but we do know that is to the overall race winner, which was Anders, of course. So I take the +1 laps with a pinch of salt, but they were started by John Brayton back in 6th, Bobby Moss in 7th, ahead of Adam Smith, Mav Gardner and Sam Hockley inside the top 10. Wesley Van Ren, shame for him to get that drive-through penalty. He finished 11th ahead of Lewis Hammond and James Foster. Quinton Van and Thiago Reiser finished inside the top 15. Only a few more drivers 1 lap down. They were Jan Jantrick, Mark Collicott and Paul Coleshaw, with Marcel Breitbach and Benjamin Hunter for Snacc and Sons 2 laps down. But they weren't the only drivers a couple of laps down, if I believe, because there were a few more. Indeed, 2 more. David Hutchison and Jesus Saavedra, and then the drivers that struggled in the race, didn't get too far. Philip Harris, Harrison Greenhalgh, Adam Baker, Jamie Bardwell, and Bruno Caracellas Rodriguez, who really didn't get off the line and was involved in that lap 1 incident, Joe.
Yeah, it was. Lots of people struggling down there, of course. Massive field. Means some people are going to come out of it empty-handed, sadly then. So, thankfully, Dara, we have our 2 race winners waiting for a word in the booth. So, without further ado, I'm going to jump back to a little bit further on, a little bit earlier on, should I say, in this race. And then, once we're all set, we'll go ahead and speak to first, excuse me, first our eventual race winner in the elite class. I just have to recall where I put this button. There is the button that I have put. So, Dara, if I can hand this one over to you, as we always do, for you to go ahead and bring in in Mr. Anders Meyer, the elite class winner, and we'll have a quick word with him and see how he feels after such a stellar evening.
Yes, I've almost forgot our routine. Anders, welcome in. Congratulations on that race when you absolutely dominated the field tonight. Talk us through how that race went for you. Obviously, went as far as you could in the opening stint, didn't have the lead for about 30 seconds and then took it back. How comfortable did you feel tonight?
First of all, thank you. How comfortable can you feel around this track? I don't know, but yeah, going into it a bit blind. I haven't really tested the GT3s a lot after the final build. Wasn't sure what to do with the strategy when it came to the tires. Not sure that I did the right thing in the end. Felt like I lost a bit of time, at least in the first stop, but yeah, it felt good, and it was nice to get a race like this to really find out how the Ferrari wants to be driven, find out what the tire is like now. Yeah, just a lot of good answers, and some answers that I'm not really or some questions I didn't get the answer to. So, but yeah, all in all, it was a good evening.
I think.
Yeah, I mean,
sorry, Dara. Sorry, no, Dara.
No. Carry on, because I've forgotten our routine.
Sorry, Anders. Yeah, I'm back in the booth. Me and Dara have had a few months away from one another, so forgive us. We have our little routine, and it seems like there's a few botches up to this point. But anyway, back to it, mate. So I can't imagine you had the expectation to dominate qualifying in the way that you did, and then eventually to see out the race. Obviously not an easy thing to do. Do you think that will be, I don't want to say it's going to be too familiar every week, especially around different tracks, but is that something you expected coming into the season, or is it a pleasant surprise that you've had a nice entry into this championship?
Well, it's always hard to know. You know, there's a lot of drivers here that I've seen before and know from before, and a lot of drivers that I haven't raced before. So you never really know. I always had the mindset that I want to fight for the wins. But I don't expect anything. You know, I just do my thing and then take it from there. And obviously this is a track that is really good for the Ferrari, and it's not long ago since we had the 6 hour of Watkins here, so you know the prep for this race has been way more than it's gonna be for many of the other tracks. So I'm not expecting this to be a trend, but I'm gonna do my best, give it my all every race weekend or every race week, and hopefully it can end up in more victories and some great battles over the course of the season.
Yeah, and I think looking forward to what we've got coming up, you know, it's a good-looking calendar. It's Spa next week. Is that a track you're looking forward to racing on?
Yeah, I always enjoy racing at Spa. It's not been the track that I've been maybe be at my A game at every time, but yeah, I think the Ferrari is gonna be a good car there as well. So not sure how the weather is gonna be, but just have to refocus, and I haven't driven that track for a while, so it will actually be fun to go there again. And yeah, just gonna do my best and have to do a bit of research about the pit strategy, because I'm not sure if I did the right thing today, but yeah, I'm gonna learn that until the next time.
Yeah, and it's a good point you make as well about this Watkins Glen 6 hour the other week, and obviously you've got Spa 24 coming up very shortly as well, so it'll be plenty of track time around that one before we meet here for that round. So before we let you go, Anders, just a little word on the rest of this season, of course. You've got your first taste of that tonight. As you said, you've got some questions that still need to be answered around the Ferrari. It seems like it is definitely so far so good. But is there anything you're looking out for, particularly the format or the calendar, any of the drivers that, as you said, you've raced with some, but not all? Anything that you're looking forward to in particular as the season gets underway?
Yeah, the car is, it's been a long time since I've done a full season in this car. But I've driven the car once in a while, so the car is not the biggest issue. I think the new pit regulations about that the tires doesn't get changed at the same time as the fuel. I think that caught me out and maybe cost me some time today. I'm not really sure because I felt like I had a pretty good gap going into pit 1, and then I saw that a lot of people had gone past me and was a lot closer. I think those drivers didn't take tires maybe, and they struggled at the end. So maybe I'm not sure if I caught back all the time that I lost in the end. I don't really think so. So that is something I'm looking forward to learn. And of course, getting to know the drivers, getting to know the league. The blue flag rules are a bit different here than I'm used to. So there's so much to to learn over the season. But at least this was a good starting point. So I'll try to do the same results in the next few races.
It absolutely was a good start for you, mate. And what we like to do before we let you go, if there's anybody that you'd like to give a shout out to or a mention, then please go ahead and do that. And then we'll go and speak to our second race winner of the night.
Yeah, I have to give a shout out to my team and to everyone following me. I know there's some people watching the race tonight. And it was a shame that I found out about the league too late, because we could have been more drivers from Racing Sport. But I know some of them are watching, so a shout out to them, and a big thanks to the organizers of the league and to you guys for the broadcast.
Good stuff, mate. Thanks a lot for coming to speak with us. Best of luck with your preparation for Bathurst next week, and we'll hopefully speak to you once again. Enjoy the weekend, and we'll catch you very shortly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right then, who else have we got? We've got our other race winner sitting and waiting for us, Mr. Chris Jennings.
Mr. Danny Phillips.
Yeah, that's right. That would have been bad if I got that wrong. Danny, welcome in. Congratulations, first of all. How are you feeling?
Yeah, pretty good. Thank you very much.
Difficult race to start the season, 90 minutes. Talk to us how that's, you've been around a very long time here in SRI. Talk us through how it's different to the 60-minute races and how you approach it slightly differently.
It's a lot different, to be fair. There's a lot more strategy in play, because obviously you've got the tyres are going to wear out a lot more. Especially with the fuel limit as well. It was going to be a a two-stop race, no matter what, no matter how much fuel saving you could do. So then obviously you're going to short fuel, you're going to long fuel. So there's a lot more to play than when we were normally racing for 60 and 30 minutes or 40 minutes races. So yeah, it was quite a big difference, but thankfully I do quite a lot of endurance racing as my main sort of pastime. So it's the longer races are pretty normal for me. So it's kind of played into my strengths a little bit.
I was going to say, Danny, there's a chance that you and DXT were part of Watkins Glen 6 Hours a few weeks ago, and I guess if you were, or if the team was, hopefully there's things that you learned from there, right? And that's probably added to the consistency and the clean race that you've had tonight, I would imagine.
Yeah, I'm not sure if the rest of the team ran the 6 hour. I didn't manage to take part in it this time around, but yeah, it's definitely the lead up to it with the coaching the week before and stuff like that. It's definitely played a little bit of a part into it.
Absolutely, then.
Because
So, sorry, Dara, you go, Dara.
No, I'm just going to ask, because obviously this has been a good result for you and definitely something to build off of. And you've had that experience in the last few weeks and getting kind of dialed in. How dialed in do you feel about Spa next week? Is it? I mean, it's a track that I think we all know quite well in the GT3 car, isn't it?
Well, considering for the last 3 or 4 nights, maybe a little bit longer, I've been doing a lot of prep work for the Spa 24. I think I could probably do it with my eyes shut by this point, so I'm feeling quite comfortable with that one at this point. But we'll see when we get to a packed SRI grid and everyone's fighting for every last inch, then we'll see how we get on then. But at the moment, yeah, it's feeling pretty good.
Yeah, we were saying that earlier. It's a difficult one to arrive to. Anything can happen. Anything did happen, actually, Danny. I'm not sure if you realised or if you had anyone in chat, but there was a big incident at the start which wiped out quite a few drivers. So I would imagine you guys toward the front got through there nice and cleanly. But yeah, if it can happen here, then it can happen anywhere else. And I guess, Danny, one of the few teams who are highlighting the sort of familiar names and the familiar teams that are back again, of course, DXT, one of those. What's the feeling like for you guys across both splits, of course? I'm not sure how many teams you've got entered, but I guess it's another season to crack on, and maybe you are optimistic about what you can achieve this season.
Yeah, we've got 2 teams this season. We've got ourselves in Magenta, and we've got the Cyan team as well. Feeling's pretty good, I think. Everyone's pretty confident. Barry got a good result in the B split tonight as well. I was in chat with the rest of the team. I think he finished 5th in the end, so good result all around for DXT. Hopefully we can just carry it forward for the rest of the season. Going back to that incident you spoke about at the start, I was hoping I would get through it, but I took a bit of rear end damage. I slowed down for it, and somebody obviously, if he didn't see the yellow flags or didn't see the smoke, and went straight up in my back end of the car, and I went for the rest of the first stint with rear end damage. But thankfully it didn't hurt the car too much, and the pace wasn't too badly affected. Yeah,
I was going to say, it looks like in the end you've done very well, so good news there then, Danny. So, good stuff. Thanks for joining us. You've kind of done it there with your team, but I'll give you an opportunity to give anyone specifically a shout out if you would like to do that.
Yeah, thank you very much. First off to you guys for this stream. I'll be watching that back tomorrow, so hopefully it's a nice entertaining stream to watch tomorrow. Shout out to the boys at DXT. It's always great to be in the chat with them, and all pushing each other on every week. And I've forgotten the guy's name who got the P1, but congratulations to him as well. Good result. Well, thank you very much.
All right, good stuff, mate. Thank you so much. We're going to go ahead and speak to Chris now, who just finished in behind yourself. So good luck with the preparation, and we'll probably catch you next week.
Cheers, boys.
Cheers, mate.
Philip, good to get a word from him after a good win, but also a good evening for Mr. Chris Jennings, who finished P2. Welcome in, Chris. First of all, how are you feeling? Good start to the season, podium place.
Surprised, I think, and warm. So it was a hot race. But yeah, really pleased with the result. I didn't expect to be on the podium. So yeah, well chuffed.
And I think, there's a lot to positives to take from that. And lots of things to build off of. This is, of course, a 90-minute race that we're not going to have too many of throughout the rest of the season. Only 2 of the other 9 races will be 90 minutes. But do you feel like these are, things you can easily transfer into a 1-hour-long race?
Well, I hope so. I mean, that was the first time we've done a 90-minute race in SRO, and it was pretty interesting in terms of strategy. It was, even during the race, I wasn't really quite sure whether I was going to do tyres or not. Chose not to, and it only I think it was just about right. But yeah, it was interesting to do a 90-minute race. It certainly adds an extra dimension with that second pit stop, and yeah, glad they've got a few of them in or however many they've got in the series this time around. So yeah, looking forward to them.
I guess that's proven quite a bit to you there, Chris, because I guess now you'll be feeling extra confident when you have a shorter race to handle, because the difference between 30 and 60 is one thing, but 90 minutes really does start to stretch toward the end of the race, really tests a driver's ability. So I guess it's given you a good thing to look forward to, a good start to this campaign. Tricky circuits coming up, me and Dara have spoken about that, but I guess now that you've got that one under the belt, it will make the feeling for an hour a little bit nicer.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, certainly. I mean, I haven't driven the McLaren for a while, and yeah, really enjoying it. With this latest upgrade, there's a lot of them on track today, but yeah, certainly looking forward to some great tracks in the series this time round, and yeah, hopefully it's transferable into the hour races, and yeah, like you say, it take a bit of pressure off on the tyres. But yeah, we'll see. I guess Bathurst next in a bit of mixed weather, so that could be interesting. Yeah,
that really is a harsh one to in the early stages of the season, can make or break. But you've got a cushion. Not many people have as good a cushion as you do going into that one, so you can only ask for what you've got. And a quick word on the team then. Axis, this time working with SimWorks. So give us a little breakdown. How's the feeling in the team? How are people, they're looking forward to this season? Does anyone have any expectation maybe you have something now that you've had a good result in the opening
Yeah.
round.
Yeah, I mean, I think the team's feeling good. Simon, David, and I managed to not trip over each other in that race. We're so close at the front in that incident as well. But yeah, I think Simon ended up with a pretty good result as well. David had a bit of a tough time. But overall, yeah, pretty pleased. I think Robert also in the elite class had a bit of a few incidents, I guess. We haven't spoken to him yet, so see how he got on. And then we've got John and Martin in the B split. So yeah, we're all set for this season, and yeah, looking forward to getting through it.
Good stuff, mate. Good stuff. Well, thanks a lot for joining us. Congratulations on a good result. Good to speak to the drivers right at the front of their classes, starting the championship exactly how they're like. So, Chris, good stuff, mate. Enjoy the preparation, and hopefully we'll catch you in a similar position this time next week.
Yeah. All right. Cheers, guys.
Cheers, mate.
Bye.
Well then, Dara, there you go. Another round of interviews all set and done. Good chance to speak to Anders and then, of course, to Danny and to Chris, the top two in the pro class and the eventual and the clear winner of the result in the elite class. Then here he is. Just follow on him as we come to an end there, Dara. But yeah, a quick summary from you, I guess. It was a good opener. Not too many issues, which is thankful. Obviously, that big one, which will get looked at by the stewards right at the start of the race. But really, a couple of incidents there toward the end. That spin in the middle sector right toward the end, which is painful after such a long race. But for the most part, not too much flashing up on my timing screen and not much caught by the cameras either, which I think is a very sensible start to what should be a very good championship.
Yeah, it really is. And yeah, apart from that lap one incident, I think generally it was a very good race, and particularly for the stewards. And I'm looking forward to seeing how we can adapt next week. Of course, just a 60-minute race. I mean, it's practically a sprint compared to tonight, right?
Exactly.
So looking forward to seeing if we can see some drivers replicate the same feats, because it's going to take a lot to catch Anders, I think.
It is, absolutely then. So we're going to attempt to flick onto the closing statement. However, when we loaded the calendar a little bit earlier on, that gave the stream all sorts of problems. So let's give it an attempt, see if it stays with us. And I think it has. So then if you are interested in getting yourself involved, things have changed since I was last here. James must have taken a whack to the head, because we've got nearly something on every night of the week. Thursday's covered here, myself and Dara, Paul Walsh over on B Split, 2 concurrent live streams happening at the same time on the SimRacing International YouTube channel. Every Friday, every second week, the GT3 Championship is already in its 3rd season after 2 successful ones earlier on in the year, and last year too. The UKSR Sunday Showdown is into its 1st season under a new name, I believe, but it's very, very deep into its regular seasonal run. That's every weekend on a Sunday night, again covered by Mr. Paul Walsh. And we have a new championship with some seats available. The Transatlantic Trophy approved MSUK Championship every Wednesday night, every fortnight. And that one is a bit of a special championship. It's a multi-class race between the GT3s and the GT4s, but everybody will be in a McLaren. Hence why none other than Bruce McLaren is featured on that lovely SRI trophy, first of its design as well, by the way. So lots of good prizes on offer outside of just trophies. You've got peripherals, you've got all sorts, gift cards and vouchers up to win as well in that one. And then Tuesday, Wednesday and Saturday evenings, the practice league. So as we said, nearly something on every night of the week. Just Mondays. Maybe if we get rid of that Monday practice league and bring it Wednesday practice league and bring it to a Monday, then we would literally have something on every single night. So you can find the information in the Discord server, SimRacing International, just down there at the bottom of your screen. But thanks to everyone who has been with us this evening. Haven't done too much reading of the comments and interacting there, because I've had lots of other things to focus on. I'm glad we got through the first stream without any major glitches. We'll do some checks, we'll do some reviews, come back stronger next week, and hopefully the racing will be there to match. So thanks for everyone for joining us. Enjoy the weekend, enjoy the British Grand Prix, and we will see you all this time next Thursday for the 2nd round in mixed conditions at Bathurst. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you very shortly.